Chapter 34:45. The sky cleared up, but the sun was still scorching, quickly evaporating the water on the ground. The ground didn't even have time to absorb the hard-won water droplets before the water evaporated. The ground was still dry and cracked. Ning Shu sighed. It was like trying to put out a burning cart with a cup of water. Was this bracelet a sign of hope or destruction? And Wengu clearly looked like the chosen one. Why would the Heavenly Tao put something like a virus on Wengu? Ning Shu felt that the Heavenly Tao probably wanted Wengu to save the world. Ning Shu couldn't help but pull his hair. He couldn't figure out the Heavenly Tao. Did the Heavenly Tao want to clean up the creatures in this world? Was that why it gave birth to this thing, to extract the vitality and spirit energy of the entire world? Then things developed to the current situation. When the strong survived and the weak were eliminated, they used the bracelet's spirit energy and vitality to start over. You want to make something new out of something old? So she might be the key. Now the world was on the verge of being scrapped. If this continued, the world would be ruined. The world was playing with him. Was this a plan or an accident? No matter what, Ning Shu had to complete his mission. Ning Shu called Wengu to the side. Chu Tianfeng saw that the two of them were going to the side alone and immediately followed them vigilantly. He was wary that the two of them were going to do something behind his back. Ning Shu saw Chu Tianfeng and directly waved his hand. Go to the side. Chu Tianfeng's suspicious eyes scanned Ning Shu and Wengu back and forth. What are you doing? Ning Shu just said, I have something to say to Wengu alone. What is it that you can't say in front of everyone? Why do you have to say it secretly? What secrets do you have? Chu Tianfeng didn't want to leave even more. Wengu was the woman he had set his mind on. Was Chu Yongning trying to steal her away? Ning Shu, children should go to the side when adults are talking. If you don't listen, I'll have to knock you out and let you sleep for a while. Faced with such a threat, Chu Tianfeng was really helpless. He couldn't beat him. During this period of time, he felt that he had the ability to fight. After all, he had to break through the encirclement every day. He was surrounded more and more often. Chu Tianfeng moved to the side, but he still stretched his ears, wanting to hear what the two of them were talking about. A single man and a single woman. What should they say? Ning Shu said to Wengu, what do you think the world will become in the future? Wenji's expression was very serious. It should be very bad. If this continues, this world will be unimaginable. Ning Shu placed his hand on Wenji's shoulder and looked at her solemnly. If I told you that you can save the world, would you think this? Ha! Wengu laughed dryly. How can I be the person who saves the world? Uncle, stop fooling around. Old fart, you're taking advantage of me. When Chu Tianfeng saw Ning Shu put his hand on his shoulder, he was a little annoyed. However, the two of them looked very serious. It didn't seem like they were flirting either, so Chu Tianfeng didn't go over. Chu Tianfeng was very unhappy. They had lived together for so long and were allies. Could it be that these two still had secrets that he didn't know? Annoyed, Ning Shu said, to be precise, it's the bracelet on your wrist that can save the world. Wenji's expression changed and she took a step back. She immediately put her hand behind her back and covered the bracelet with her other hand. She didn't expect that Chu Yongning, who usually seemed to have no desires, was also thinking about her bracelet. That's right. Chu Yongning wanted to buy her bracelet in this lifetime. Chu Yongning's bracelet was also unique. On this journey, the person Wengu trusted the most wasn't Chu Tianfeng, but Chu Yongning. But now that Chu Yongning said such words, Wengu still felt very hurt. Save the world, such an old excuse. Li Jun already said it before, so this excuse is useless. Wengu said directly and also showed her attitude. She would definitely not take out the bracelet. Save the world? She couldn't save it. If she handed over the bracelet, what would she and her brother do? How would she and her brother live? Without the bracelet, how would they survive in such a bad world? Along the way, she saw all kinds of tragedies. Wengu was very glad that she had this bracelet. Otherwise, her brother would have died long ago. Asking her to hand over the bracelet now was asking her and her brother to die. Wengu had a clear understanding of herself. Relying on herself and her brother, Even if they formed a group, they wouldn't be able to survive. Wen Ji's eyes looking at Ning Shu became much colder. Before, there was warmth and trust, but now it disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by vigilance. Ning Shu didn't care much about Wen Ji's emotions. After all, it was Wen Ji's thing. Ning Shu said, "The spiritual energy and vitality in your bracelet space is the key to saving the world." Wen Gu shook her head, "Uncle, do you want this bracelet?" Using the principle of the common people, the previously Jun was disgusting, and now Chu Yongning was also disgusting. Sure enough, people were all the same. Wen Gu was very disappointed. It seemed that she had to leave with her brother. Staying with someone who always had intentions on her, she wouldn't even know if she was killed. But the world was big, where should she go? She encountered a lot along the way. If it wasn't for the fact that only she could enter the bracelet, Wen Gu wanted to take her brother directly into the bracelet and not have to live outside. But her brother couldn't enter. This was both a benefit and a disadvantage. Even if others took away her bracelet, they couldn't use it. The disadvantage was that she couldn't even let people close to her in. She could only live with her brother in the world outside the bracelet. But the outside world was so dangerous, and people's hearts couldn't stand the test at all. Wen Gu thought that they could trust each other. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. "What do I want your bracelet for?" Wen Gu wanted to laugh. "If you don't want to save the world, then what do you want my bracelet for?" "Ning Shu, the concept is different. I don't want this bracelet, but this world. The spiritual spring in your bracelet space can suppress the outbreak of this virus. I believe you know it yourself. So you want to distribute the spiritual spring in here to everyone." Wen Ji's eyes were full of sarcasm. Saying that he wanted to save the world, he just wanted to seek personal gain. She just wanted to live a good life with her brother. She didn't want to use this bracelet to do anything earth-shattering. Given the current situation, it was very difficult to live a stable life. Ning Shu shook his head. "You don't need to distribute it to everyone, just..." Ning Shu saw the deep sarcasm in Wen Ji's eyes and raised the corner of his mouth. "Just break the bracelet." Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 3446. There was no need to give spiritual water to them one by one. As long as the bracelet was broken, the spiritual energy and vitality would be released. Take a look. Take a look at it. If he used the summoning curse technique, all the problems would be solved. Wen Gu was stunned. Break the bracelet? This was too much of a waste. They wanted to snatch the bracelet, but it made people feel pity and angry. "Yes, break it," Ning Shu said. Wen Gu shook her head and refused. "I don't agree. The bracelet can't be broken like this. What's the use of breaking it? Without the bracelet, how can my brother and I live? Are you going to sacrifice my brother and me to help those people I don't even know? I am a weak woman and my brother is a patient. His body can collapse at any time. We are also people who need to be saved, but who will save us? No one will save us, but we have to sacrifice the things we rely on. Uncle, do you think this is reasonable?" Ning Shu looked at her with a helpless and pitiful look. "Even if you want to break the bracelet, can't you collect and store more spiritual water in advance? This way, even if the bracelet is broken, you will still have spiritual water." Wen Gu was speechless. This was not the point at all, okay? If they only left behind some spirit water, how could they have an endless supply of spirit spring water that seemed to never be used up? Everyone knew what to choose. Wen Gu asked Ning Shu, "If I ask you to give up your things and you don't have such things, will you give it up?" Ning Shu, "Of course not." Wen Gu sneered. "So, what position do you have to ask me to give up the bracelet and break it? Can you tell me how to break the bracelet? Why do you have to break the bracelet? If you break the bracelet, there will be nothing left. Without spiritual water, there would be no space to store supplies. Moreover, the things in the space would not expire or deteriorate. What refrigerator in the world could be better than this space? Snatching the bracelet was one thing, but breaking the bracelet? What the hell was this? He was crazy. If he broke the bracelet, there would be nothing left. Moreover, could he be sure that breaking the bracelet would be of any use to this world? Could it suppress the virus? Please, why don't they just tell everyone that they have something that can kill the virus? Then, like the savior of the world, they will distribute the spiritual water to everyone and break their bracelets. Before, Wengu was angry at Li Jun for snatching her things, but now facing Ning Shu, she felt deeply powerless. Regardless of the reason why Li Jun snatched things, it was normal. He just wanted to have the bracelet and use the bracelet to bring profits and power. But this Chu Yongning was purely crazy. He wanted to break the bracelet. If the bracelet was still there might still be hope. But without the bracelet, there was really no hope. She held the bracelet tightly and said directly, "I'm sorry, I can't give you the bracelet, and we're not suitable to be allies anymore." Chu Yongning had already revealed his true colors, and she no longer needed to feign civility. Moreover, Chu Yongning's fighting strength was so strong that she couldn't beat him at all. Moreover, her younger brother's health wasn't good. In short, the situation was very unfavorable for her. Ning Shu saw Wenji's vigilant expression and didn't say anything. He just said, "I'll give you time to think about it." "No need to think about it, I can show you the answer now. I won't give you the bracelet, it's my thing. Don't use the common people's hat to pin it on me. The common people's lives are not my responsibility. The common people have never done anything good to me." Ning Shu just raised his eyebrows. Wengu was right. If it was Ning Shu wouldn't be willing to hand it over. The common people indeed had nothing to do with her. However, Wengu didn't reach a certain realm. Like Ning Shu, he wouldn't die or grow old. Perhaps in this life, he could still see the collapse of the Law Sea. She didn't need to rely on the Law Sea to survive. But Wengu was different. Wengu still needed this world, because without this world, she couldn't survive. Oh, maybe she could live in the bracelet. But when this world was gone, this bracelet wouldn't have a place to support her life. Could she go to other worlds? Or maybe she could absorb the life force and spirit energy of other worlds. Ning Shu squinted his eyes and looked at Wenji's wrist. If this bracelet wasn't a product of this world and wasn't arranged by the heavenly Tao, then it could really be a virus. It could wander in many worlds. This bracelet had the same effect as the wild system. After all, they both absorbed the fate of the world and absorbed the life force of the world. It was like a virus. Wengu didn't want to talk to Ning Shu anymore. She went to the car and said to Wenhua, "Little brother, we should go." Wenhua asked blankly, "Big sister, where are we going? Are we going with them?" Wenhua's face was very pale, and his aura was very weak. This was the result of Wenji's great care. Otherwise, Wenhua would have died long ago. Wengu pursed her lips. "We're not going with them?" But even if Wenhua was a child, he knew that it was safe to follow these two men, especially Chu Yongning. He had always been the core of the team. When it came to fighting, it all depended on him. Chu Tianfeng was the assistant doing the hard work. Wengu was in charge of logistics. She would distribute some spirit water according to the situation of everyone. But if the two of them left by themselves, the situation would be very dangerous. "Why are you leaving? What did that old fart say to you?" Chu Tianfeng walked over. When he heard Wengu say that she was leaving and wanted to leave the team, he immediately frowned. "If there's anything, we can discuss it properly." During this period of time, Chu Tianfeng had become a lot darker. He was filled with the aura of a man. At this moment, his expression was solemn and serious, giving people a feeling that he was very trustworthy. Wengu glanced at Ning Shu and said, "No need. Let's just separate like this." Wengu was a little afraid that the other party would reveal his true intentions. She could enter the bracelet, but her brother couldn't. If she was alone, it would be very convenient. But she couldn't abandon her brother. "Give me a reason. A reason why you want to leave." Chu Tianfeng said, "Otherwise, the outside world is so dangerous. It's impossible for me to let you go." Chu Tianfeng's domineering tone made Wenji's heart explode. She was sure that Chu Tianfeng had colluded with Chu Yongning to take away her bracelet. "Bastard, I won't give the bracelet to you." Chu Tianfeng was sprayed with saliva all over his face. He was very confused. "Who wants your bracelet? Wasn't this bracelet useless to the others other than Wengu? What's the use of snatching a trash?" Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 3447. If he couldn't use it, he might as well give it to someone who could use it. He could take the person but not the item. As a businessman, Chu Tianfeng still had basic common sense. There was no need to offend someone who could use something that couldn't be used. Wouldn't that be stupid? Wen-ge was stunned for a moment, but she still said, your uncle wants my bracelet, and he wants me to break it. Wen-ge didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the bracelet was much smaller. It was tightly wrapped around her wrist, and it was a little uncomfortable. There was a small gap before, and the bracelet was swaying on her wrist, but it was so tight that it hurt her wrist. It seemed that the bracelet also had spiritual energy. It knew that someone wanted to break it, so it was tightly wrapped around her wrist. Wen-ge stroked the bracelet, and her heart was filled with love. The bracelet was so spiritual. Even if it didn't have any spiritual energy, she still needed it. No matter what, she had to protect the bracelet. The bracelet relied on her like a child, and it hugged her tightly. What? Chu Tianfeng was also dumbfounded. Breaking the bracelet, his uncle probably had Alzheimer's disease. Although Ning Shu looked very young, because he was an elder, Chu Tianfeng felt that this person was very old. Chu Tianfeng said to Wen-ge, "Calm down, I'll go ask. This uncle of mine has always been unreliable." Chu Tianfeng walked to Ning Shu and directly asked what happened. If it was in the past, Chu Tianfeng would have been furious. But after going through so much, Chu Tianfeng had matured a lot. Most importantly, he couldn't beat the other party. Ning Shu spread his hands and said, "You think I'm dreaming? Nephew, I'll tell you the truth. I'm afraid this world is going to be destroyed. Unless the bracelet is broken, the spiritual energy and vitality inside can slowly repair this world." Chu Tianfeng was speechless. There was no scientific evidence at all. And even if it was broken, what was the use? If it was useless, he would lose a bracelet for nothing. This bracelet was really too convenient and too awesome. To actually break such an awesome item, it was too much of a waste of God's gift. Chu Tianfeng said, "No wonder Wen-ge wants to leave. You're just daydreaming." Ning Shu stretched lazily. "Wishful thinking. What do you think of this bracelet? Very impressive, very good." Ning Shu, these are things that are beyond everyone's understanding. I don't think it's too far-fetched to be able to break and suppress the virus. If there were benefits, he wouldn't feel that there was anything strange about it. Even if he felt it, he would ignore it. Chu Tianfeng, what if it doesn't work? Uncle, you scared Wenj to death. How can you suddenly say something like that? Ning Shu, then what should I say? Chu Tianfeng sighed. If I were Wen-ge, I wouldn't be able to take it either. You actually want Wen-ge to give up this thing for someone else? Ning Shu rolled his eyes. The bracelet you're using now is like drinking poison to quench your thirst. Do you understand? Without the world, let's play to death together. He didn't know if this world had the power to deal with this bracelet. If it didn't, then this world would be reduced to nothingness and collapse. If this bracelet was within the scope of the Heavenly Tao's calculations, this bracelet would collapse sooner or later. It would return the spiritual energy and vitality to this world. It would also achieve the purpose of cleansing. The large-scale death of living creatures made this world a lot emptier. Therefore, Wenji's bracelet was definitely going to be gone. Without the Heavenly Tao, there was still her. If there was the Heavenly Tao, she wouldn't have to do anything. If the Heavenly Tao couldn't do it, then she would do it. When necessary, she would take extreme measures. She felt that Chu Tianfeng was a little dependent on this thing now. If he relied on something, when this thing disappeared, the inconvenience would be very, very prominent. Ning Shu said, "This thing is not good. It's addictive. Learn to store your own food." It was very convenient. It wouldn't spoil and would become fresh. Now all the supplies were in Wenji's bracelet. No matter what Chu Tianfeng found, he would throw it to Wen-ge. Wen-ge put it in the bracelet. You're good, I'm good, everyone is good. No one could leave the other. If Wen-ge was going to leave, she would also take away the supplies collected during this period. Chu Tianfeng was in a dangerous situation. There was no water or food. Chu Tianfeng said, Don't say anything to her about breaking the bracelet. Ning Shu just nodded and didn't say anything. Chu Tianfeng acted as the peacemaker and said to Wenguo, "Don't worry. I've already told him. He's a little muddle-headed. He's been living abroad for a long time and has always been so weird. You can enter the bracelet yourself, but you have to think about Wenhua. If you leave, can you protect him? Also, his body can't take it. The world is so chaotic now. It's normal for people to eat people, especially when you look so fresh. Now, when I see you, my first impression is food, very delicious food." Now, everyone was sallow and emaciated. They were all desperate and fearful. But Wengu was fresh, white and tender. Her skin was so delicate that it could be broken by the wind. It was too tempting. Everyone was releasing the evil in their hearts. Such a beautiful girl. If they raped and ate her, it would not only satisfy their desires but also fill their stomachs. Chu Tianfeng was really worried about Wengu. She definitely wouldn't have a good life with her brother. If they didn't meet people, it would be fine. But once they met people, they would be fish on the chopping board. Wengu also knew that, but it was also very dangerous to stay beside these two men, especially Chu Yongning. Who knew if he would steal her bracelet? Maybe he would directly tie her up and use a stone to break the bracelet on her wrist. Wengu was frightened by the image in her mind. Anyway, now she was in a dilemma. Wengu looked at Chu Tianfeng. This man was a little different from his previous life. Perhaps because of this disaster, he had experienced so much and changed people. At this moment, he looked at her with a gentle and certain gaze. Wenji's nose was sour. She suddenly felt like crying. Did this mean that she didn't misjudge him? At least, she didn't love the wrong person in her previous life. Wenji's heart came up with an idea. She wanted to take Chu Tianfeng with her and not let Chu Tianfeng be with Chu Yongning. The three of them could go together. But she couldn't say such words. She was just an outsider, and they were blood-related uncle and nephew. Moreover, Chu Yongning's martial arts were very strong. In this chaotic world, it was very safe. Wengu didn't dare to guarantee that if she said it, Chu Tianfeng wouldn't agree. But now, Wengu felt afraid when she saw Chu Yongning. The bracelet was tightly wrapped around her wrist, indicating that the bracelet also felt danger. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 3448. It's too dangerous. Let's go. Wengu looked at Chu Tianfeng with a complicated expression. Sorry, we can't go together. I'll leave something for you guys. Wengu didn't go to the extreme. She took all the supplies and made a few big water bottles. These plastic bottles were very big. If they drank sparingly, they could drink for a long time. And it was spirit water. Compared to the endless supply of spirit water in the bracelet, this little bit of spirit water was nothing. But now that there was a serious shortage of water, this little bit of water was precious. Wengu had already done her best by doing so. She had also taken out a lot of resources. Chu Tianfeng frowned. Do you have to do this? With me around, he won't say anything to you. And he's just saying, don't take it seriously. It's dangerous outside. Chu Tianfeng felt that he was worried sick. The two of them were quarreling and he felt very awkward. It was like a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. A man in the middle, Wengu. It wouldn't be dangerous. It wouldn't be dangerous. The bracelet didn't have this reaction. This was a warning. Wengu didn't want to stay. The problem was that she had a car. Wengu didn't have a car. This car was Chu Tianfeng's. It was a very good car. Other than changing the tires, there were basically no problems. And it was bulletproof. Otherwise, the windows would have been broken. Wengu looked at the car and couldn't help but sigh. Her brother couldn't travel long distances. At this time, it was up to Chu Tianfeng to be a gentleman. Chu Tianfeng, who was struggling with his gentlemanly demeanor. It was a disaster to not have a car. They could go together. Why was he so conflicted? Ning Shu walked over and said, since she doesn't want to go with us, forget it. Let's go together. Go my ass. Chu Tianfeng roared in his heart. This uncle of his really couldn't do anything right. He was really all brawn and brains. When Wengu saw Ning Shu, she immediately took a few steps back and held her wrist tightly. Perhaps it felt that danger was approaching, so the bracelet tightened a lot. It was so tight that her wrist hurt. Even her fingers were a little bloodshot. Wengu was once again sure that she couldn't stay with them. The bracelet had never reacted like this. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and grabbed Wenji's left hand. The bracelet on her wrist was exposed. The bracelet was completely attached to Wenji's wrist, leaving no gap. It was impossible for Wengu to remove the bracelet now. Ning Shu could only say, "This bracelet is going to abandon you." Wengu wanted to pull her hand back, but Ning Shu held it tightly. She flew into a rage out of humiliation and her face turned red. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Ning Shu said, "Perhaps it sensed danger, so before the bracelet left you, it wanted to deprive you of your vitality." Wengu drank a lot of spiritual water and ate things that contained spiritual energy. Her body was full of vitality and spiritual energy. Ning Shu said, "There's no such thing as a free brunch in this world. Why do you have it and no one else has it? You'd better give it up now." Wengu sneered. For the sake of this bracelet he was willing to do anything. He said that he was giving up on her, but Wengu felt that the bracelet was protecting its owner. She knew that this person was up to no good, so she had such a reaction. At the same time, Wengu felt more and more that this Chu Yongning was different. The way he spoke and acted was very different. Give up on her? Impossible. She had always been wearing this bracelet. It was left to her by her grandmother. It was this bracelet that saved her from danger and improved her embarrassing situation. With this bracelet her brothers survived. If there were demons in the world, she would be willing to be with them, because angels would not help her. When she was desperate in her previous life, she was so embarrassed that she betrayed herself. In this life, having a bracelet made her life better. Giving it up was impossible. Wengu broke free from Ning Shu's hand and said to Chu Tianfeng, "I'm leaving. I'll leave the bracelet to you." "Wenhua, let's go." Wengu asked her brother to get out of the car. Wenhua obediently got out of the car. He looked at Ning Shu. "Uncle, will my sister really be in danger?" Ning Shu did not speak. He looked a bit unfathomable. Chu Tianfeng wanted to chase after him, but seeing that Ning Shu was not backing down, he was a bit embarrassed. "Uncle, what's going on? You're an idiot. I already said that without the vitality and spiritual energy in the bracelet, the world will end." "Now it's already the end of the world," Ning Shu said lightly. There was no one else who was as retarded as his nephew. "Uncle, are you serious?" Chu Tianfeng frowned. "What the hell are you talking about? How can you be sure? What did this uncle of his learn abroad? Why was he so mysterious?" "I'm sure. The longer it drags on, the world will be finished. Then." Chu Tianfeng's brows furrowed into a caterpillar. "Will it harm Wengu in any way?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't know. Now the bracelet is firmly tied to her. It can't be taken off. Who knows if it will integrate into her flesh, into her body, and then integrate into her soul. Her soul will be devoured." Chu Tianfeng's face trembled. He felt a little scared. Chu Tianfeng asked, "Should we find her and talk about it?" Ning Shu shook his head. There was no such thing. Even if he knew that this thing was not good, he would not hand it over. Because everyone's survival had become extremely difficult. With this thing, they could live a little longer. Tup. Wengu, who had just left, called back with her brother on her back. The run was very bumpy. Wenhua, who was on her back, was shaken until his face turned pale. Other than the two of them, there was a group of people behind them. They were holding bricks, wooden sticks, and rusty iron pipes. Some of them were holding knives. These people's faces were filled with craziness and desire. They chased after the two of them. Wengu had cultivated before, so she ran faster than these people who were full. She ran back to Ning Shu and Chu Tianfeng. There was no choice. They could not beat so many people. Seeing Ning Shu and Chu Tianfeng, these people became even more excited. The more people, the more food they could eat. And why were these people so white? It was as if they had never been exposed to the sun. One had to know that the sun was very strong now. The sun had created deep grooves. People's skin was many shades darker. Now, when people saw people who were white, the first thing that came to their mind was not that they were white and beautiful, but that they were tender and looked delicious. When Gu came in front of the two of them and said, "Help me," she was also unlucky. She encountered a group of people the moment she went out. It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 3449. Such groups acted together like bandits. When they met someone, they would rob them and they would not waste the body. If they were alone or in small groups, they would swarm over and slaughter them as if they were slaughtering pigs. They did not feel any psychological burden at all. They had met several groups before, but because Ning Shu was there, everyone stayed in the car safely. Chu Tianfeng would get out of the car and fight with them. Wen Gu and her brother only needed to stay in the car. Facing so many people, Wen Gu had no choice but to run back. Ning Shu only had 4 people on his side and there were at least 20 people on the other side. There was no doubt about it. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Why should I help you?" Chu Tianfeng said, "These people will not let us go either. Just kill them." Even if they wanted to kill Wen Gu and her brother, these people would not let them go. It was better to sell them to Wen Gu. Maybe they could leave together. To be honest, Chu Tianfeng looked at the supplies left by Wen Gu and was worried because there was not enough space in the car to put them. But if he had to throw away these resources, he would rather die from overeating. So it was so convenient to have Wen Gu. "Ning Shu, what does it have to do with me? I don't need to eat." Wen Gu was a bit embarrassed. She had just run away and now she ran back. She was a bit embarrassed. But there were so many people on the other side. Especially the light in their red eyes, it was chilling. These people were all crazy. Like animals, they would kill their own kind and eat the corpses of their own kind for a bite of food. Even animals would not eat the bodies of their own kind. The harsh living environment drove people crazy. The harder it was, the more they wanted to live. Ning Shu sat on a rock. The rock was hot and Ning Shu's but hurt. "Nephew, this is your chance. Be the hero and save the beauty. It's your turn." She would leave this world sooner or later. When she died, Chu Tianfeng would be at a loss. Chu Tianfeng's face was a bit green. How could he fight with so many people? And he was bare-handed while the other side was all armed. He might not be able to last one round. Ning Shu held his chin and said, "I can fight. Just give me the bracelet." "Hello." When Ji's expression changed, Ning Shu continued, "I'm despicable, aren't I? I'm threatening you. Everyone, this is not an easy task. You have to risk your lives. Just watch from the side. Besides, you're no longer my ally. Why should I risk my life for you? Either you die or give me the bracelet." If she gave the bracelet, she could live, but if she didn't, these people would tear Wen Gu apart. Wen Gu was the prettiest one here. She was a feast for the eyes. Many of the dirty men present had lewd looks in their eyes. Obviously, he had been thinking about Wen Gu countless times in his mind. When Ji's body trembled. She did not know what to do in this situation. Abandoning the bracelet was absolutely out of the question. The bracelet tightened around her wrist, and it felt even tighter. It was so tight that her wrist bones hurt. Wen Gu shielded her brother behind her. She saw that Ning Shu was calm and unperturbed by the situation in front of him. Right now, Wen Gu really hated her own incompetence. She had no power, so now she was being threatened. Chu Tianfeng was in a dilemma. Ning Shu whispered, "Uncle." Chu Tianfeng's voice was a little coquettish. Ning Shu was very disgusted. "Think about it. I won't stop you. But I won't, unless you give me the bracelet." She was with an old mother before. "Now that you're back, you still want me to help you. What do I owe you? If you want to live, you have to pay the price." Chu Tianfeng sighed. If he could, he would have done it too early. This old man was taking advantage of the situation. Wen Gu must be very conflicted now. This group of people was getting closer and closer, with a valiant and murderous aura. Perhaps it was due to the birth of evil thoughts. These people's bodies and eyes carried an evil aura. From Ning Shu's eyes, these people were shrouded in a thin layer of black gas. Wen Gu still wanted to protect her bracelet. She did not ask for help, but carried Hua and continued to run. Now that Chu Tianfeng and Chu Yongning were holding them back, they had a chance to escape. These people would not give up Chu Tianfeng and Chu Yongning to chase them. Moreover, they had a car. These people would definitely want to kill the two of them and snatch the car and the supplies in it. Ning Shu looked at the backs of the two and smiled. Wengu was still smart. In this kind of environment, she had to be calculative. Otherwise, she would not be able to survive. This group of people directly divided the team into two teams. One team stayed to deal with Ning Shu and Chu Tianfeng. 10 against 2, Wengu still could not handle it. Moreover, there was no way to run back now. If she ran back, she would run into them head-on. Ning Shu shrugged his shoulders. It did not matter. If Wengu died, she would take the bracelet directly. If she ran back, then it was still the same. If you want to live, give me the bracelet. Ning Shu released his spiritual power to ensure that everything was under his control. If Wengu wanted to live, she could enter the bracelet and get rid of the pursuit. However, Wenhua could not enter the space. Therefore, without Ning Shu's help, Wengu became very passive. She had to face danger at all times. For Wengu to give up her brother's life, this was probably a very painful thing for her. Ning Shu just sat there and didn't move. She could just let Chu Tianfeng use her spiritual power. Previously, they could not win with so many people. Now that half of them were gone, they should be able to win. In fact, there were only 5 or 6 people left. Most of them ran to chase after Wengu. What would a man think when he saw a woman? Delicious and fun. Chu Tianfeng took out a weapon from the car. He was made of flesh and blood. Since the other party had weapons, he naturally had to fight with weapons. Chu Tianfeng fought a little fiercely. He probably wanted to save Wengu. Chu Tianfeng's training during this period of time was a little effective. The 5 or 6 people could not do anything to Chu Tianfeng. When Ji's spiritual water had spiritual energy. She needed spiritual energy and energy to cultivate peerless martial arts. It was convenient for Chu Tianfeng. Chu Tianfeng's figure flashed nimbly between them. He held a knife and slashed at these people. Blood splattered out. It splashed all over Chu Tianfeng. His face was full of blood and it was full of the smell of blood. Chu Tianfeng was a little nauseous. These people relied on their numbers. Now that they saw how fierce Chu Tianfeng was, they were scared. Moreover, the blood on him and his teammates was tempting them. These people hurriedly covered their wounds. Blood covered their hands and they directly licked the blood with their tongues. They licked their own blood with a satisfied and greedy face. This scene was enough to provoke people. Chu Tianfeng was disgusted. It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 3450. Not long after, Wengu ran back with her brother on her back. Ning Shu was speechless at the torment. Behind them were the men who looked like wolves and tigers. When Ji's face was ashen, she shouted to Ning Shu, "I will give you the bracelet." If she didn't give him the bracelet, she would die. Wengu couldn't go into the bracelet and give up her brother in exchange for her own life. Ning Shu snapped his fingers and said to Chu Tianfeng, "Go." Chu Tianfeng, don't talk like you're releasing dogs. Ning Shu reached out and grabbed Wenji's wrist, trying to remove the bracelet from Wenji's wrist. Very good, he had a good reason for doing things. Wengu couldn't go back on her words even if she wanted to. It hurts, it hurts. The bracelet on Wenji's wrist was tighter and tighter. It was almost embedded into her skin. And the bracelet was getting thinner and thinner. In the end, it was the size of a wire. It was shrinking and shrinking into Wenji's flesh. Wengu was in so much pain that she felt her wrist was being sawed. Wait, it hurts too much. Wenji's face was pale. She started to tremble uncontrollably. She was about to pass out. Ning Shu could see that the bracelet was going to merge with Wengu. Will it work? Chu Tianfeng couldn't help but ask when he saw this scene. Especially when he saw Wengu in so much pain. This bracelet was in Shanghai. Ning Shu said directly, "You just need to stop him." "Bear with it, I'll break it." Wengu exclaimed, "If you break it, there will be no spiritual water. My brother's body won't be able to take it." If it weren't for her brother, she would have gone into the bracelet. If she broke it, there would be no spiritual water. Her brother's body hadn't been nourished yet. Ning Shu said, "I'll collect some for you after you break it." It was possible to collect some spiritual energy at the moment of breaking it. It seemed that the bracelet was unwilling to be broken like this. If it was a bracelet with a mission, it might accept its fate. However, if it didn't have a mission, or if it already had the basic instinct of a living creature to avoid harm, it wouldn't be willing to be shattered like this. Ning Shu directly released a huge amount of spiritual power and used it to cut the bracelet. When Gu screamed in pain, it was as if she was being dismembered, and her flesh was being sliced off piece by piece. "Stop, stop now." When Ji's tears flowed as she struggled with all her might. "I regret it, I won't hand over the bracelet. Instead of suffering like this, it would be better to just die. It was too painful." Ning Shu knew that the bracelet was doing this on purpose. It wanted to hurt Wengu so that Wengu would struggle. His mental power cut into the bracelet, making an uncomfortable sound like fingernails scratching a blackboard. Everyone present couldn't help but cover their ears. It was too unpleasant. Wengu was in so much pain that she felt like she was going deaf. The sound she heard seemed to be amplified infinitely, as if the sound was arranged by the bracelet. Wenji's heart was in a mess as she screamed, "Let go of me, let go of me." The bracelet had given her so much and made her life less difficult, but she had to give up this bracelet. Wengu felt that she was really inhuman. The bracelet was covered with layers of barriers, and Ning Shu directly used his sharp spiritual power to attack. This thing was a dead object after all. Although it was a treasure and had a consciousness to protect itself, it wasn't that powerful. With a boom, the bracelet exploded and turned into specks of light. At the same time, a strong and vast vitality and spiritual energy gushed out. Ning Shu reached out and collected some spiritual energy. When the bracelet broke, Wengu screamed and fainted, lying softly on the ground. Ning Shu immediately used the incantation technique to prepare for rain, but the vitality and spiritual energy disappeared without a trace. Ning Shu, where were the vitality and spiritual energy? Ning Shu looked at the spiritual energy and vitality in the bottle. Fortunately, he had collected some. After all, he had promised Wengu before. Chu Tianfeng dealt with everyone present and looked up at the glaring light. The sun was still shining and the air was dirty. Nothing had changed? Ning Shu, who the hell knew what was going on? The bracelet had clearly been broken, but why didn't it change at all? The life force and spirit qi quickly dissipated like water vapor, evaporating into nothingness. The scene was very awkward. It's too big outside. I'll get Wengu into the car, Chu Tianfeng said and carried Wengu into the car. Wenhua was timid and his voice was sobbing. Will my sister be okay? She's fine. She's just shaken. She'll wake up soon. Don't worry, you go to the car and stay there, Ning Shu said to Wenhua. Wenhua was already scared out of his wits. Now that his sister was unconscious, he could only obediently get into the car. He realized that he had implicated his sister. Ning Shu put his hand on his eyes and looked up at the sky. The thief was embarrassed. He thought it was the bracelet's problem. But now that the bracelet was broken, the world was still the same. Could it be that the world needed time to recover? Wengu woke up and looked at Ning Shu with an indifferent expression. Wengu wasn't the only one looking at Ning Shu. Everyone looked at Ning Shu. Didn't they say that the world would change if the bracelet was broken? The world was still the same. There was no change. No, there was a change. The wind was even louder and the sun was even hotter. Ning Shu, it's easy to destroy, but it's hard to build. Even a sick person needs time to recover. Everyone. Wengu touched her empty wrist and felt empty and disappointed. She felt like her heart was being torn apart. Ning Shu gave a bottle of spirit water to Wengu. This is for your brother. Wengu quickly took the bottle and felt the cool feeling inside. She finally heaved a sigh of relief. At least with this spirit water, her brother's body could hold on. Chu Tianfeng said, Don't worry. You left me a lot of spirit water before. It's enough for your brother. Wengu left a lot of materials and spirit water behind when she left. Chu Tianfeng comforted her. It's okay. I'll take good care of you. He broke your bracelet. He'll protect your life in the future. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and didn't say anything. The spirit energy and vitality had disappeared without a trace. He still had to take care of this world. If it recovered, it would be good. If it didn't, the four of them were on the road again. Without the bracelet, all kinds of inconveniences were revealed. Some fresh and tender things would rot if they weren't eaten early. Fortunately, they were slowly getting used to it. When Ji's mood had been low, losing the bracelet was like losing half her life. Chapter 3451. The bracelet was broken, but the world didn't change. Instead, the situation became worse. The virus became more rampant, and it mutated to the point that it couldn't be cured. Read the full story. Read the latest chapters at Novelful. Those who were infected died beyond recognition. Even if they were about to die, they couldn't bear to eat such corpses. What should they do? There was still no rain. There was no water in this world that could be used. All kinds of creatures died on a large scale. Along the way, everyone's faces were numb. They were already used to death. The three of them looked at Ning Shu, speechless. They said that the world would change after the bracelet was broken, but they didn't see where the change was at all. And they even lost a bracelet. They really wanted to beat him to death. He was an unreliable person. Why did they believe him? Ning Shu looked out of the car window. Don't ask me, I don't know anything. Ning Shu thought that the situation in this world would become better after the bracelet problem was solved, but what was going on? Why did it become even more serious? All kinds of creatures died in droves. Because of the rapid decrease in the number of creatures, Ning Shu and the others sometimes couldn't even see people when they drove. Before, there were still people robbing them. Now, there were fewer robberies and the road was smooth. This actually couldn't be considered a good thing. There were infected people lying motionless on the side of the road. If it weren't for the slight rise and fall of their chests, they were no different from dead people. They were waiting for death. They couldn't even cry for help. Ning Shu rubbed her forehead. This time, she was really at a loss. Chu Tianfeng asked, "Why is this happening?" Ning Shu, "I don't know. Maybe it's natural revenge." The world was in a mess, and now the world was taking revenge. It couldn't be called revenge, but Ning Shu really couldn't understand the evolution of this world. He couldn't understand it at all. But was it going to destroy all the creatures in this world? Wouldn't the situation get better if they didn't? This was too scary. Everything had to be restarted. Ning Shu looked at the three people in the car. This person was nourished by spirit energy. Since the outbreak of the virus, he hadn't been infected. This meant that the spiritual energy and vitality were indeed restraining the virus. However, the huge amount of spiritual energy and vitality in the bracelet instantly disappeared. However, the spirit chi and life force were still in this world. Wenhua's hoarse voice rang out in the carriage. "Barrier, will we die too?" Wengu hugged him tightly. "No, I won't let you die." However, President Wenhua was still infected by the virus. His entire body began to fester. Abscesses grew on his body one after another, swelling up one after another. From the top of the abscesses, he began to rot slowly. These pustules would grow bigger and bigger until they covered the entire body, making it unbearable to look at. Wengu didn't dare to touch her brother, afraid that she would hurt him. Wenhua repeatedly had a fever, and in the end, his consciousness started to blur. Wengu hugged her brother and cried. She had lost her bracelet, and now she had lost her brother. He was the only one left in this world. Wengu gave Wenhua a lot of spirit water and took a lot of anti-inflammatory medicine, but it was useless. This virus was like a terminal illness. Once infected, there was no way to cure it. Wenhua was unconscious, and it had only been a few short days since he took his last breath. Wengu was in a trance. She didn't believe that her brother had died just like that. It was Chu Tianfeng who reminded her to dig a hole and bury Wenhua's body. It was better to leave it at the side of the road for wild dogs and flies to gnaw on. "My brother didn't die." Wengu gritted her teeth. She turned to look at Ning Shu and rushed in front of Ning Shu. She grabbed Ning Shu's collar with both hands. Return my brother, return my bracelet. You said that the bracelet was broken and the virus could be suppressed, but now my brother has been infected. You liar, lie. She wailed, her voice desperate and helpless. Ning Shu let her grab him. He had an indifferent expression. He didn't apologize or say a word. Wen Gu cried until her body went soft. She fell to the ground and covered her face with both hands. She cried until her shoulders shook. Chu Tianfeng sighed. He told Wen Gu not to be sad and to bury the body. Chu Tianfeng also felt shocked when he saw the state of the disease. He tried his best not to touch the body. It was too scary. There were pustules all over his body, and the pustules were still flowing with pus. It was too painful. Wen Gu didn't avoid it at all. She carried her brother's body and chose a place to bury him. After the body was buried, Wen Gu said to Ning Shu and Chu Tianfeng, "Let's part here. I can't be with you anymore." Wen Gu looked at Ning Shu with deep disgust, but she also knew that she couldn't beat Ning Shu. She could only ignore him. Anyway, she couldn't go with them. As for whether she would live or die in the future, Wen Gu didn't care at all. Without her brother, she didn't have so many worries. Chu Tianfeng immediately grabbed Wen Ji's hand. "Don't go. It's dangerous for a weak woman like you." Wen Gu shook off his hand. "It's none of your business, Chu Tianfeng. What's my relationship with you? You keep interfering with me." Ning Shu said, "Why are you leaving? Don't go. I'll leave." Ning Shu felt that it was necessary to explore this world alone. Since these two wanted to be together, let them be. With that, Ning Shu turned and left. Before the two of them could react, Ning Shu left very quickly. After a while, they couldn't even see his back. Chu Tianfeng. Why were they all so bad-tempered? Chu Tianfeng felt that his temper was quite bad. However, Wen Gu and the old fart were both so bad-tempered that they left just like that. How could he survive without water and food? By then, he might not even be able to see his corpse. Ning Shu left the two of them and cast a spell. He wanted to use the incantation technique, but he found that there was no spiritual energy at all. Where did the huge amount of spiritual energy in the bracelet go? This world was probably going to collapse. The sun was scorching hot. Ning Shu had to rely on her pair of legs to walk. She had seen many tragic scenes that made her hair stand on end. It was very sorrowful. This was purgatory on earth. It was Ning Shu's first time seeing a world so cruel. Now he could basically confirm that this world became like this because of the manipulation of the heavenly Tao of this world. He had already broken the bracelet, but the world's situation didn't improve. This meant that it wasn't the time yet. Was he really going to destroy all living beings? Then it probably wouldn't be long before they went extinct. After they went extinct, would they be reborn and give birth to living beings from scratch? Ning Shu was walking when he suddenly felt the ground under his feet start to shake. Ning Shu, earthquake? The shaking became more and more intense. In the end, he couldn't stand. It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 3452. The earthquake was very violent, and the dust on the ground flew up. Those empty cities and those concrete buildings also fell down with a rumble. Because of the earthquake and the Earth's crust, some volcanoes started to erupt. Magma spewed out and buried everything in its path. Ning Shu looked at the menacing magma and quickly turned to run. She was now a spiritual body. Magma didn't do much harm to her, but it did hurt. The temperature of the magma wasn't low. She was now in a disaster movie, and it was the kind of disaster movie with very impressive special effects. It was very, very real. To be able to survive under the torture of the force of nature, that person was probably a superhuman. Many volcanoes erupted all over the world, and the earthquakes caused the ground to shake and crack like an abyss. All the living creatures in this world were finished. Not a single one was left, not a single one was left. In the face of such a terrible disaster, people were very weak. Even Chu Tianfeng and Wen Gu, who had luck, would probably die. No matter how lucky they would still be finished if they were targeted by the entire world. Hot volcanic ash floated in the air. If people breathed in the volcanic ash, they would probably suffocate. There was no oxygen. Even if people escaped the earthquake and the volcano, They couldn't escape suffocation. Ning Shu sighed. The heavenly Tao of this world was really ruthless. First, it infected humans with a strange virus and slowly tortured them. Then there were earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that could wipe out many living creatures. Now the air had become very dirty, and there was no oxygen that living creatures needed. How was this world going to evolve? Was it going to wipe out everything from the past? Ning Shu had always been puzzled by the vitality and spiritual energy. If the huge vitality and spiritual energy disappeared in an instant, wasn't this supposed to be a simple mission? I'm probably going to die. When Ji's face was blue, this was a sign of lack of oxygen. Her nostrils were filled with thick volcanic ash. Don't talk. If you talk, you'll suffocate faster. Chu Tianfeng's face was also purple. He was struggling. She didn't know if Chu Yongning was still alive. She thought that the previous virus was the limit, but she didn't expect the next one to be the main event. When Gu smiled bitterly, her expression became more and more absent-minded. Suffocation was a very painful expression. Vaguely, she saw a person appear in front of her. This person's figure was blurry, and even his facial features could not be seen clearly. Ning Shu looked at these two people. Indeed, these two people also had the same fate. Ning Shu couldn't grab a handful of air for the two of them to breathe. Uncle! Chu Tianfeng saw that Ning Shu could still walk like this. Chu Tianfeng only cried out once before his eyes widened and he breathed his last. In terms of physical endurance, women were more resilient, while men were more explosive. Chu Tianfeng had died, but when Gu was still angry and asked the question she had been wondering about. Why aren't you dead? Anyone could tell that something was wrong with the other party. Ning Shu, because I died a long time ago. When Gu also died. Only then did Ning Shu realize that this world did not give him any chance of survival. Ning Shu asked the system, Danqing, do you think this world is normal? This was the first time Ning Shu had contacted the system after coming to this world. Danqing. It's probably normal. After all, there are thousands of planes that evolve. Some worlds are more friendly to living beings. Even if they evolve, they won't kill them all. But if some worlds think that the existence of living beings will hinder the plane's evolution, then they will kill all living beings and start all over again. They can even let the world recuperate and rest for a while. Actually, the world also has resentment. If it has resentment towards living beings, it will directly destroy them through evolution. Heaven and earth were heartless, treating all things as straw dogs. Whether it was humans or other spirits, they were all the same in front of the heavenly Tao. There was no difference. Therefore, when all living beings were destroyed, the world's evolution would begin. She still had to stay in this world and see what direction it would develop in. Outside the world, in the void, a few people looked at the dim and cracked world. All living beings in this world are destroyed? And he was a little speechless. This world has a bad temper? The Grand Elder frowned. Who's taking care of this world? Why is it like this? And he just said, we'll know once we check. Grand Uncle looked at the message sent by the main system. When he saw the name, he curled his lips in disdain. I'll go in and take a look. Be prepared. It's best to be prepared when it collapses. This plane was very close to the Sea of Laws. There were many planes behind it, a long string of planes. If it collapsed, it would be very troublesome. There were so many planes behind it. They wouldn't be able to hold it back. And he nodded. Go in peace. This plane was full of cracks. Grand Uncle dripped into the plane like a drop of water. As soon as he entered the plane and saw the devastated world, his expression was a little indescribable. He accurately found the location of the plane's guardian. When he saw Ning Shu nestled in the cave, his expression was even colder. After taking care of the world like this, he could still sleep in the cave. He was really big-hearted. Grand Uncle walked in and kicked Ning Shu awake. Ning Shu opened his eyes and saw Grand Uncle's constipated face. He was even more upset. Grand Uncle, what's going on? Ning Shu. You should ask what's wrong with the world. I'm just a person. Who knew that this world would be so radical and play like this? She had already broken the bracelet, So this world could be saved. The living beings could probably be saved too. But the world didn't do that. Instead, it made the world scarred. Grand Uncle wasn't very satisfied with Sang Liang's work. He found such a person to take care of the plane. Ning Shu wasn't a fool. It wasn't like he couldn't see Grand Uncle's dissatisfaction. He said directly, "Okay, you can take this mission. I don't want the mission reward. You can do it. You don't have to serve me." This world was willful. What could she do? She was also desperate. "Grand Uncle, what's with your temper? Can't you be more responsible?" "Ning Shu, I've always been very responsible, but I don't like to be ignored." Ning Shu didn't believe that if Grand Uncle was here, the plane wouldn't do this. "Grand Uncle, can you tell me the details?" Ning Shu told Grand Uncle about the matter with a solemn expression. Grand Uncle listened. "The spiritual energy and vitality have disappeared." "Yes, it's gone." Ning Shu still couldn't figure out where the vitality and spiritual energy had gone. "Is the bracelet hot or what? Do you have to break it so quickly?" Chapter 3453. If the bracelet was broken now, it would have been a much better time to break it. Read the latest chapters. Read the latest chapters for free. Now that the world is fragmented, the spirit energy and vitality can be nurtured. Ning Shu said, "I don't know, because the hand is about to be embedded into the body of the person wearing it. If it is completely integrated, it will be difficult to deal with it. It suddenly disappeared. I think the world absorbed it. The world should be repaired now, right?" Senior Uncle raised his eyebrows. "Should be?" Ning Shu. "Shouldn't be?" Senior Uncle, "Are you sure?" Ning Shu, "Shouldn't it be?" Ning Shu was confused. "I think it was absorbed by the world. I'm sure it was absorbed by the world." Senior Uncle didn't speak again. Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "If it doesn't work, we can use some external spirit energy." Ning Shu remembered that there was still a pool of spirit liquid in his system space, and there were spirit fish in it. If he got some spirit liquid to this world, it might be of some help. Since Senior Uncle was here, it meant that this world couldn't collapse. The price of collapse was a bit high. Senior Uncle nodded. "Let's wait and see. If the spirit energy and vitality disappear for no reason, then use props." Ning Shu nodded and didn't speak again. The two men were nestled in the cave. In this world, there were only two people, Ning Shu and Senior Uncle. Ning Shu was holding a dry branch and rowing on the ground. Senior Uncle stood on the side. The two of them didn't interfere with each other's business and stayed there for a long time. Day and night changed back and forth. Senior Uncle went out in a flash, probably strolling around the world. Ning Shu felt that it was irresponsible for him to stay in the cave like this, so he also went out and strolled around the world. The whole world was barren. There was no green at all, only a vast expanse of yellow. Particles floated in the air. These volcanic ash and dust began to slowly accumulate, forming a thick layer of dust on the ground. Footprints were formed one after another. The whole world was silent. There was no sound, no vitality, and dead silence. It hadn't rained for a long time. It hadn't rained since the outbreak of the virus. There was no water and no life. Water was the source of life. Ning Shu met Tai Shu while strolling. He said to Tai Shu, "I think it's time to intervene. Let's wait a little longer. Derivation isn't something that can be done in 1 or 2 seconds." Ning Shu didn't say anything. In this regard, Tai Shu had more experience. If there was a problem with the divination, he couldn't blame her. She was the one who insisted on intervening. There was nothing wrong with giving this world some spiritual energy. There's no need. According to the spiritual energy and life force in the bracelet, this world has a direction of evolution. With the extra energy, the evolution of the world might change. Ning Shu nodded. "All right, you're right." Ning Shu wanted to go back. His heart was extremely tired. Doing this kind of guarding mission, the plane was like a child. It had no idea what this world was up to. Everything was uncertain. After witnessing one disaster after another, Ning Shu felt a little depressed. Disasters were really something that destroyed humanity. So many creatures had died. Now the world of samsara was probably going to explode. Taishu said, "Cheer up. Now we have to find the energy points of this world. Since the spiritual energy and life force have been absorbed, they will be released slowly. I can't hold it in for so long." Ning Shu felt that the world was really naughty sometimes. Why are the rules and laws of this world collapsing? Taishu frowned. A world had laws and rules. The laws and rules maintain the operation of the world. The energy made the world operate. The laws and rules were the procedures that allowed the world to reproduce according to this procedure. If the laws and rules were collapsing, then this world was really going to collapse. Ning Shu, ouch, damn it. It was too tiring. After spending such a long time, this world still played itself to death. Ning Shu said, "Do you want me to bring some spiritual energy to this world? Maybe it can be saved. Go ahead." Taishu nodded. Ning Shu asked Danqing to teleport him back to the system space and took away all the spiritual energy in the pool. There was only a little left so that these spiritual fish wouldn't be dried to death. But it was also tight. These spiritual fish lay down and became salted fish one by one. Ning Shu returned to the world again. He held the bottle and said to Taishu, "Should I release the spiritual energy now?" Taishu nodded. But it shouldn't be very useful. After checking it, he found that the world was like a water tank with a hole. No matter how much water was poured in, it was useless. Taishu set up a large barrier to cover the whole world. This way, the spiritual energy wouldn't leak out. He wanted to see how much this world could absorb. Ning Shu poured the contents of the bottle on herself, drenching herself from head to toe. Ning Shu came to this world as a soul. He was exposed to the sun, viruses, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Ning Shu felt that his soul was covered with a layer of dust. After being drenched by the spiritual water, he immediately felt refreshed. The filth in his soul was about to be washed away. Ning Shu used the spiritual energy to make it rain. However, the rules of this world were collapsing, and the laws couldn't be invoked. The spiritual liquid fell to the ground. The dry ground absorbed the soul, but it only moistened the ground a little. Soon, it evaporated again. Although it evaporated, Ning Shu felt that there was spiritual energy around him. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to maintain his image as a man. He directly changed back to his original appearance. Maintaining a man's appearance also required energy. Ning Shu asked, "What should we do next?" Then they could only wait. Was it really painful to do such a task? He felt that this world was probably doomed. After all, even the rules and laws were collapsing, which meant that the heavenly Tao was collapsing. A terminally ill patient was struggling on the verge of death. They had to accompany this patient in his struggle. Ning Shu and Taishu were speechless. The two of them didn't speak for a long time. Ning Shu squatted and played with mud. He couldn't be bothered to look at Taishu's face. Now, the leader questioned her ability to work. She was nothing but a quail. There were no changes in the world. Ning Shu said to Taishu, "Why don't you get some more spiritual energy?" "Okay." Ning Shu, that she had contributed all the spiritual liquid. It was time for her to go to Taishu to find something rich in spiritual energy. Why was it her again? Ning Shu said tactfully, "I've handed over all my spiritual energy. I don't have any more." It was a tough job to contribute both money and effort. Taishu, "Oh, then we can wait a little longer." Ning Shu, "Okay, whatever you say." He just didn't want to find something with spiritual energy. It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 3454. Lazy Guy. Ning Shu despised him in his heart. On the phone, Ning Shu and Taishu wouldn't be killed by the harsh environment, so they wandered around the world. Anyway, Ning Shu didn't know how long he would wander in this world. The hot weather had slowly cooled down, which made Ning Shu happy. After all, sunlight was very young. It was always a little uncomfortable when it shone on the soul. But after the heat subsided, it began to enter the extremely cold weather. It began to snow. It was snowing heavily. Soon, the world was shrouded in ice and snow. Everywhere he went was a vast expanse of whiteness. It was so dazzling that his eyes hurt. It was unbearably hot before, and now it was unbearably cold. Taishu's expression relaxed a lot. Ning Shu observed his expression and felt that this cold should be good for the world. It was mainly because Ning Shu couldn't lift his waist now. After all, he was the one taking care of this world. He didn't have much experience the first time. Until a small bud grew out of the ground, Ning Shu immediately said happily, "It's done, it's done." After the ice and snow melted, grass grew out. Grass looked very ordinary, but it was the foundation of all things, the lowest end of the food chain. Only with this could living creatures be born. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. It was finally done. Fortunately, it was a miracle. Ning Shu felt that he might not be able to set up a barrier around the entire world. He didn't have that much energy to support it. Ning Shu asked, "Do I have to set up a barrier to take care of the world?" "That's not necessary. If the world collapses a little and can't hold the energy, set up a barrier to protect and gather the energy. You've been staying in the world when you're taking care of the world. Don't you know how to go out and take a look?" When the outside collapsed and couldn't hold the energy, he was in a daze inside. Ning Shu, "Oh, I remember." He could still go out. The first time he felt a little numb, Ning Shu remembered. Not only did he have to stay in the world, but he also had to check the situation outside. Was there a crack? Should he set up a barrier? The organization has information on guarding planes. Go back and take a good look. You don't know anything and came to guard planes. Ning Shu, "Okay. I'll go back and take a good look." Taking care of a plane was a technical job. When a blade of grass appeared, the entire world flourished. However, other than grass, there was nothing else, not even insects. The seawater gradually rose. There was already water, and the world was slowly recovering. Ning Shu left the world and saw that there were still cracks in the plane. When these cracks disappeared, the world would be completely healed. Ning Shu returned to the world and started playing with grass. He didn't know when the world would be able to give birth to living beings. Generally speaking, living beings were born from water and then migrated to land. Gradually, the entire world was submerged by the seawater. The grass that grew before was also submerged. However, as time passed, these grasses also mutated and became seaweed that could survive in the sea. Ning Shu went out of the world from time to check on the bitwall. Although the cracks were decreasing, the speed was very slow, probably because it required energy. He asked the grand uncle to find something with spiritual energy, but he was too lazy to do it. She had already contributed the spiritual liquid of the spiritual fish. Now, those spiritual fish were still flipping their bellies in the pool. As long as the cracks in the world disappeared, the world would be fine. It was only a matter of time before living beings were born. The arrangements had been made clearly. The grand uncle looked at the vast sea and said, "You'll stay here and wait until the cracks in the bit wall heal?" This mission was really bad. There's no reward this time. If we hadn't discovered it in advance, the world would have collapsed. There would be a lot of trouble in the future. Ning Shu, "I didn't make any contributions, but I worked hard." He also lost a pool of spiritual liquid. The grand uncle, "Useless people talk about hard work all day long. Is it something to be proud of when you don't have the ability to do hard work? Don't you think it's shameless and thick-skinned?" Ning Shu thought he didn't think it was shameless or thick-skinned. He had been busy until now, but he didn't get anything and still had to guard this world. Ning Shu's heart was full of resentment, and he looked at the grand uncle faintly. The grand uncle ignored Ning Shu's gaze and left the world in a flash. Ning Shu exhaled, blaming himself for not being prepared in advance. Ning Shu said to the system, "Help me find that information." Dan Qing grunted and said, "It's also my mistake. I wanted you to experience the mission of guarding a bitwall. And the mission given by the main system is also the simplest. I didn't expect there to be so many twists and turns. The system thought this mission was simple. In fact, it was Ning Shu's fault for not being prepared enough before. He wouldn't accept this kind of mission so easily next time. The responsibility of this kind of mission was really great and related to the whole world. It didn't matter if it was related to such a bitwall. If this bitwall collapsed, it would affect the bitwall next to it. It might explode like firecrackers. The responsibility was too great. Ning Shu stood on a hill that hadn't been submerged by the sea yet. The smell of the sea was very strong, but it was also full of vitality. There would probably be living creatures born from the sea. It might be a year, a few decades, or even 10,000 years. Ning Shu didn't care when living creatures were born in this world. Instead, he was worried about when the bit wall would heal. As long as it healed, his mission would be over. It was simply a blind effort, and he couldn't even make ends meet. He didn't know if those spiritual fish would die. Although there was a little spiritual liquid left, it couldn't even submerge the fish's backs. Ning Shu was alone in the world, and he was going to stay there until the end of time. Squatting on the hill, he was going to turn into a statue. After the mission was over, he had to go to the void world to find a treasure to calm himself down. He was so tired. His heart was tired. He was so tired that he didn't like it. He didn't know how long he had waited, but Ning Shu finally saw the bit wall heal in his lifetime. He carefully checked every part of it. If there was a little bit that hadn't healed, he had to leave it behind. He had to wait until it healed completely and there were no sequelae before he could leave. Ning Shu felt that she had played herself to death in this world. Ning Shu waited until the last crack had healed, and the bit wall was no longer scarred. Only then did she leave the world. Back in the system space, Ning Shu lay on the sofa without saying a word. He closed his eyes and said, "Now, even if something big happens, don't wake me up." It was tiring to do 10 ordinary missions. Dan Qing said, "I've found the information for you. You can take a look when you wake up." Ning Shu was tired from doing missions, and Dan Qing was also tired looking at him from the side. She felt mentally and physically exhausted. Dan Qing thought to herself, sure enough, this kind of mission was a little too difficult. It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 3455. After Ning Shu woke up, he read through the information found by the system. He didn't expect that taking care of the plane was so complicated. He had to be careful. This was much more difficult than doing ordinary missions. Ning Shu felt that he had to do it a few more times before he could get the hang of it. Only then could he know what to do, just like handling the star stones. Ning Shu put down the information and rubbed his eyebrows. He wanted to absorb some soul power, but he found that there was no gain this time. The reward had been deducted by the Grand Uncle. It consumed the soul power and exhausted both his mind and body. The problem with this world was that the speed of the car was too fast, and it collapsed when making a big turn. Originally, the influenza and various natural disasters happened frequently, and it actually had an impact on the world. It caused cracks to appear in the world. Even if the bracelet was broken, the spiritual energy and vitality were lost. The various disasters that followed came as scheduled. At this time, it was impossible to stop them even if one wanted to. Ning Shu glanced casually and saw that the Peerless Martial Arts on the bookshelf was shining slightly, especially the words on it, which were glowing. Ning Shu stretched out his hand, and the Peerless Martial Arts book flew into Ning Shu's hand. The Peerless Martial Arts book was much thicker and heavier. Ning Shu wanted to enter the world, but he found that he had entered an extremely small space. This space was very cramped, and it was not easy for Ning Shu to turn around. Ning Shu was speechless. Why did the space inside the Peerless Martial Arts book become so small? Before long, the space inside the Peerless Martial Arts book would be reduced to nothing. The Peerless Martial Arts book would become a lump of iron. Ning Shu was speechless. The Peerless Martial Arts book was probably going to be destroyed and become a brick? The Peerless Martial Arts book changed endlessly. Ning Shu didn't know how the book would change, and his heart was numb. However, as long as the Peerless Martial Arts book didn't explode, Ning Shu said that the Peerless Martial Arts book could change as much as it wanted. He just didn't know if it would hurt to hit someone with the Peerless Martial Arts book or if it would hurt. Ning Shu picked up the Peerless Martial Art book and lightly slammed it on the tea table. The tea table shattered with a pada sound. Wow, it could really be used as a brick. However, Ning Shu wouldn't take this thing and smash it everywhere. After all, what if this Peerless Martial Art was destroyed? The Peerless Martial Art was probably Ning Shu's feelings and memories. The peerless martial art was like an old object, with bits and pieces recorded on it. He did not ask for any great fortune from the peerless martial arts. Even Ning Shu didn't need any great fortune from peerless martial arts. Because of the changes in the peerless martial arts, Ning Shu had the time to take out his various items, wipe the dust off, and rearrange them. Beautiful roses have always been like this, never withering. He didn't know what kind of energy allowed the roses to resist the power of time and not wither. Ning Shu touched the God-striking whip. In the previous battle, the God-striking whip had absorbed a lot of energy. There were energy waves on the surface of the God-striking whip. It was probably digesting the energy. He didn't know what the God-striking whip would evolve into. After all, it was a treasure in the void. It was a treasure on the same level as the Grand Uncle's gun. If he cultivated it well, he would have a weapon in the future. He wouldn't have to use the peerless martial art book as a brick. Since it was a treasure in the void, should he put it in the void to absorb some energy? Ning Shu touched the whip. The whip was very cold. When Ning Shu touched the whip, she could feel the whip slowly absorbing her soul power. The whip was actually absorbing her soul power. Although it wasn't much, it was still absorbing. This kind of indiscriminate absorption was absorbing the enemy's energy and the user's energy. This wasn't good. It seemed that this whip didn't recognize her as its master at all. Ning Shu stroked the whip and felt that the whip was trembling slightly. Then, the whip started to tremble and flew everywhere in the space. Ning Shu didn't know what happened to the whip. The whip hit the wall of the system space. It seemed that it wanted to leave. Ning Shu was shocked and quickly grabbed the whip handle. As a result, she was pulled out of the system space together with Ning Shu and flew into the void. There was a person standing in the void. He was dressed in white, and his clothes were fluttering in the wind. He had long hair, and a wooden hairpin was casually placed on his head. Just his back was truly magnificent. The whip dragged Ning Shu towards this person. He turned around. The hair on his temples fluttered slightly and he smiled. He reached out and grabbed the whip. Ning Shu grabbed the other end. The two of them were like a tug-of-war competition. "Miss, this is my whip," he said in a clear voice. The God-striking whip was rapidly absorbing Ning Shu's soul power, but Ning Shu didn't let go. She raised her chin slightly. "Now this whip is mine." Ning Shu was tired. After all this time, she was also an existence that was being nurtured. There must be this person's consciousness in this whip, and it was buried very deep. In the face of Ning Shu's arrogance, she was still not angry. She said, "This whip is indeed mine. There is my consciousness imprint in it. It doesn't belong to whoever has it." Ning Shu still said, "Now that the whip is in my hands, it is mine." How did it become an existence that was being nurtured? She was very unwilling to accept it. The man smiled. His eyebrows and eyes were like a painting. His whole face was like a flower that suddenly bloomed. His whole person became lively. Ning Shu was indifferent to his smiling face. No matter how beautiful his smile was, it couldn't be more important than the God-striking whip. "I heard Zhu Menxing mention you." When he mentioned you, he gritted his teeth. "There are many things in life. How can you live if you are angry about everything?" "Oh my, he's a Buddhist." Ning Shu was about to lose the God-striking whip. Ning Shu couldn't be Buddhist at all. She couldn't give the whip to this man. The man's expression was a little innocent. "But this is my whip." "It is mine now," Ning Shu said coldly. "Okay." The man let go. The whip wrapped around Ning Shu's waist and didn't let go at all. Moreover, it was absorbing Ning Shu's soul power. The scales on the whip vaguely opened and directly pierced into Ning Shu's soul. Damn, it really fucking hurts. If it hit someone else, it would be lethal. If it hit her own body, the feeling was called sour. Ning Shu understood what this man meant. He wanted to let the God-striking whip absorb her soul power. He didn't need to do anything and could make the God-striking whip stronger. Ning Shu struggled, but the God-striking whip was tightly wrapped around her. This God-striking whip. Ning Shu was really angry. She originally wanted to nurture the God-striking whip like a child. She didn't expect that there was someone else's consciousness imprint in the God-striking whip. This imprint was too subtle. She didn't notice it at all. The person before was nurturing the God-striking whip. Ning Shu was also nurturing the God-striking whip. Chapter 3456. Ning Shu glanced at the fairy-like man. She felt that her spiritual power was disappearing rapidly. The little bit of spiritual power that she had painstakingly accumulated was actually going to be absorbed by a whip. Was it easy for her to gather spiritual power? Since the whip was determined to absorb her spiritual power, then she would destroy it. She couldn't let it absorb all of her spiritual power. Ning Shu used the will of death to resist the whip. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to get the whip. Ning Shu didn't want to let this man take advantage of him. He looked like a Buddhist. How could he be a Buddhist? If nothing went wrong, this Buddhist man was definitely a secret member of that faction. Even if he wasn't the leader, he was still an important person in the faction. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the capital to let others nurture the whip for him. Ning Shu held the whip that was covered in thorns. The sharp scales pierced into Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu immediately used the will of death. It was just a matter of who couldn't endure it. He also used the will of death to erase the consciousness imprint in the whip. If possible, Ning Shu didn't want to destroy the whip. This was a Xian treasure. It was something that was born in the void. It wasn't easy to find one. Now that this treasure had taken shape, it had absorbed a lot of energy. Ning Shu also spent a lot of effort. The whip's consciousness was blank and barren. There was basically nothing. Now, the whip was still an ordinary whip. It didn't have a consciousness. After thinking about it, he also imprinted a consciousness imprint. You can imprint, I can imprint. Two consciousness imprints couldn't coexist. The two consciousnesses would fight each other. Because the whip was imprinted by Ning Shu, it wouldn't attack Ning Shu. Instead, the two consciousness imprints would fight for it. Ning Shu held the whip and chuckled. Now that this whip has my consciousness imprint, this whip is mine. The Buddhist man blinked. How is it yours? Ning Shu blinked. You said that the whip has your imprint, so it's yours. Now that the whip has my imprint, logically speaking, it's my whip. The man shook his head and laughed. Your logic is very bandit. There's no such thing. Ning Shu, this is my spoils of war. Your subordinate lost to me, so this is the thing. You want to take my spoils of war? Your logic is even more unreasonable. These people had lost to her and wanted to snatch her things. Now that they were snatched from her, they wanted to snatch it back. Dream on. Bian Jiji's two consciousnesses were fighting. Only one of the two consciousnesses could remain, and that person would become the master of the whip. Ning Shu's consciousness was like a black thread that slithered around like a snake. This consciousness was attached to the will of death. Death was dark and terrifying. On the other hand, the man's consciousness was a white grain the size of a grain of rice, emitting a faint and warm luster. It was a stark contrast to Ning Shu's darkness. Ning Shu's consciousness slithered over and attached itself to the grain of rice, wanting to devour the other party's consciousness. Although Ning Shu had the will of death, the other party's rice-sized consciousness didn't move at all. He was indeed a big shot. There was no hurry. She could slowly grind it out. Ning Shu sat down. She was tired from the mission anyway, so she took the opportunity to rest. She didn't have much, but she had a lot of time. She could spend it until the end of time. Ning Shu looked at him standing still, allowing his clothes to flutter. He looked gentle, as if he wouldn't get angry. He was like a monk who saved all living beings. Ning Shu's hands were stained with blood. Regardless of whether it was to protect herself or to protect her belongings, a battle was a must. Moreover, he was such a big shot. Everyone in the organization had to step on him to get to the top. His gentleness was just a facade. One had to see through the facade to see the essence. Without some thunderous means, one couldn't suppress others. Ning Shu said, "Aren't you tired of standing? Sit down. I don't think there will be a winner for a while." Ning Shu's will of death was an advantage, but the other party was strong. If he fought back, Ning Shu wouldn't be able to handle it. The Buddhist man smiled. "No need. I'll just stand." "Then you can just stand there." He smiled kindly at everyone he saw. As for what he was thinking, no one knew. Ning Shu wasn't in the mood to understand what the other party was thinking. Now, it was just a matter of which of the two consciousnesses would stay. The Buddhist man shook his head and sighed. If your consciousness wins, I don't mind giving you this whip. Ning Shu smiled. This is obviously mine. I don't need you to give it to me. I don't know what they did before. They were probably afraid that I would be in a bad mood, so they were eager to get this thing back. Ning Shu made a sound of surprise. How scary are you to make your subordinates so impatient to snatch it back by hook or by crook? He shook his head. It's not that I'm scary. It's just that they don't want me to be unhappy. It's just a Khanate treasure. I don't care too much about it. Instead, I'm worried about losing people. People are the most important thing. Ning Shu just snorted. That is to say, if I win, this whip will be mine? The man nodded. If you win, it's yours. Then your subordinates won't come looking for trouble with me anymore? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and asked. No, they won't come looking for you. Ning Shu immediately said, all right then. If they don't come looking for trouble with me, I won't go looking for trouble with them for no reason. It was annoying to be targeted all day. The most important thing was that he could get a Khanate tycoon, and a fully formed one. Ning Shu felt that this whip was the most suitable weapon for him, so he had to hold on to it. The Buddhist-like man was probably serious now. His consciousness started to counterattack. Previously it had been motionless, but now it started to move. His consciousness, which was the size of a grain of rice, exploded with a powerful light. This light seemed to be able to shine through all the filth in the world. One black and one white. It seemed that Ning Shu's consciousness was really filthy. The other party was very pure, just like the holy light illumination. Ning Shu didn't care too much. If his consciousness was really mixed with filthy and evil things, it might be suppressed by this light. However, this consciousness was mixed with death. Death was pure black and wasn't filthy or evil. The black and white fought. Ning Shu didn't have much experience in such a battle of consciousness. He could only eat away at the other party's consciousness bit by bit. The man raised his eyebrows. The law you've comprehended is not simple. It can resist my consciousness. My consciousness is the cleanest. When other people's consciousness comes close, they will feel uncomfortable. Ning Shu only said, thank you for the compliment. Ning Shu and the man were like wooden blocks. They didn't move at all in the void. The two consciousnesses in the whip were clashing fiercely. They didn't give way to each other. Chapter 3457. The consciousness was connected to the main body, and the pressure and damage could be felt. Ning Shu felt a lot of pressure. The other party's consciousness was very strong, but she could not retreat. If she lost, she would have to hand over the deity-beating whip. In fact, she was betting with the man. Since the other party was magnanimous, she wouldn't go back on her word even if she lost. So, Ning Shu wanted to win openly. If the other party lost and wanted to go back on his words, the man's consciousness seemed to be a righteous person. If he really went back on his words, it might harm his cultivation. Ning Shu was really tired of those people looking for trouble endlessly. It would be difficult for her to completely get rid of them. She had to steadily increase her strength, but these people would come over to harass her and stab her. They could not kill her, but they made her feel irritated. So this was an opportunity for Ning Shu, a chance to obtain the deity-beating whip, and also a chance to stabilize herself. Ning Shu knew that her current strength was still much weaker compared to these factions. And these factions were intertwined, with various forces intertwined. That was to offend a lot of visible and invisible people for no reason. The battle between the two consciousnesses became more and more intense, reaching the climax. Ning Shu quickly familiarized herself with the battle of consciousnesses and continued to input power. The battle between black and white exploded in the deity-beating whip. Ning Shu felt a little heartache. She did not want to break the deity-beating whip. Ning Shu treasured the deity-beating whip. The consciousness of death was very strong. It was not good to get involved with it. Death was not a good thing after all. But this kind of pure power was incomparable to anything. Even the powerful Sea of Law would die. The man was a little surprised and nodded. They only said that you are despicable and shameless, but they did not tell me that your strength is not bad. Ning Shu, huh? I am despicable and shameless. I don't even want to talk about what your subordinates did. Please, those people were not any better. The matter with Zhang Jiasen in the restaurant, they were all shady. A crow said that a pig was black, but she did not think so. Everyone was the same. Bah, she was neither a pig nor a crow. The Buddha-like man laughed. He was neither anxious nor annoyed. Even though his consciousness was at a disadvantage now, he was still as calm as before. Ning Shu felt that this person had really faked it into his bones. He wasn't trying to act cool, but it felt like he was. What an invisible act of pretentiousness. He seemed to be a straightforward and upright person. However, Ning Shu wouldn't define it that way. After all, no one knew what these big shots were like. Right now, he was acting all righteous and upright. Who knows, he might be scratching his feet or picking his nose behind his back. Perhaps due to the suppression of the rules, Ning Shu's advantage was becoming more and more obvious. This death was something that Ning Shu had traded his life for. Ning Shu was so afraid of death, so cowardly, that he had directly destroyed himself. It made sense to seek riches and honor in danger. Not convinced? If you're not convinced, go ahead and die. Maybe you'll get something amazing. But if he died, everything would be over. Ning Shu let out a smile. Thank you. This whip is mine. Ning Shu held the whip. Now, this whip only had his consciousness. The consciousness imprint was deeply imprinted on the whip. The Buddha-like man nodded. Now, this whip is yours. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. After losing a weapon, he actually didn't have any reaction. Compared to his subordinates, who were angry out of humiliation and gritting their teeth, they wanted to bite off a piece of meat from him. He seemed to be very gentlemanly. Ning Shu smiled. Even if you want to go back on your words, I won't give it to you. I said that whoever wins will take it. This is yours. After saying that, the Buddha-like man left. Ning Shu touched the whip. He felt as if the whip was a part of his body. It was very intimate and familiar because the whip had his own consciousness. This whip completely belonged to him. Although he had lost a wave of soul power, the soul power that was absorbed by the god-beating whip, the whip wouldn't return to him. It had personality. Ning Shu hummed a little tune. She was a happy girl. Now, the people of that faction had no reason to cause trouble for him. Your boss already said that the whip is already hers. Now, the matter of this whip was finally settled. This was really good news. He had to go eat something to celebrate. Ning Shu went to the restaurant in Water City. Both restaurants were his, so he could eat as he pleased. Walking into the restaurant, Ning Shu bumped into the puppet. To be honest, the charm of the puppet was still very impactful. Putting the puppet in the Law City to take care of the city was probably the best decision. Ning Shu sat down and asked, "What happened in the city?" "No, it's very peaceful," the puppet said honestly. His voice was full of magnetism. When he spoke, it was like the strings of a zither. It was pleasant to the ear and made people feel numb. He really couldn't figure out the meaning of Uncle Chang making such a charming puppet. Wow, Uncle Chang was a pervert. After the two exchanged a few words, there was a suffocating silence. A waiter came over for Ning Shu to order, which eased the awkward atmosphere. The puppet said, "Master, are you very embarrassed? Do you need me to tell you a joke?" Ning Shu, that was really cold. Ning Shu nodded. "Then tell me a joke." Then, the puppet used a handsome but expressionless face to tell a dirty joke. Ning Shu, meow meow meow. Especially when the people at the next table looked at them strangely. Now it was even more awkward. Ning Shu felt that the puppet should be seen as a robot or a computer, but it was too realistic. Ning Shu calmed down and said, "Don't tell jokes in the future." "Why did you choose such a joke?" The puppet said, "That's the kind of joke in my database." That was Uncle Chang's fault. He put such a thing in the puppet's database. Ning Shu ate some food and took some profits from the restaurant. It wasn't much, not even as much as what Ning Shu got from dealing with the star stones. But no matter how small a mosquito's meat was, it was still meat. So Ning Shu converted all these merits into merit grains and sent them to the world of reincarnation. Previously, there was already an empty world of reincarnation. It was born but no soul entered it. Now, there was another world of reincarnation that started to evolve into the pool of reincarnation. He felt that it was a waste to leave this world of reincarnation empty. He wanted to connect the world of reincarnation to the world of living beings. And the world of reincarnation would be quite big. But if he wanted to connect it, he needed skeletons to look after it. Then the skeletons would be scattered in the two worlds. It wasn't good for the skeleton's management, but it was a waste to leave it empty. Even if he didn't use it, after a long time, the pool of reincarnation would slowly disappear. Ning Shu and Zhu Jun discussed the matter of connecting to the world of living beings. The world of reincarnation needed someone to manage it. Chapter 3458. If it was really connected, he needed these skeletons to take care of the world of reincarnation. This was to prevent any big mistakes from affecting the world. Zhu Jun said casually, "You can send half of the skeletons to another world. It's a simple matter. How many skeletons can take care of themselves?" Ning Shu gave the merit grain to Zhu Jun. He was not very poor now, so he was willing to give the merit grain. Ning Shu asked, "How are the skeletons' injuries now?" "After such a long time, they should be fine now." Zhu Jun said, "They're almost fine." Ning Shu decided to carry it out and let the task taker connect to the world of reincarnation through bidding. The highest bidder would be able to connect to the world of reincarnation if they could offer a higher price. Before issuing the notice, Ning Shu planned to consult His Excellency to see if her world could connect to the world of reincarnation. He opened the chat system, but found that he had been blacklisted by His Excellency. His Excellency and she had reached a consensus on the matter of fighting for the child's custody. The little devil would follow His Excellency from then on. Since His Excellency had blacklisted her, Ning Shu had no way to consult. He could only find the silver-haired man and spend some money to consult. Ning Shu did not go to the consultation room. He was too lazy to go there, so he directly used the chat system. Ning Shu told the silver-haired man about the situation of the world and then asked if it could connect to the world of reincarnation. The silver-haired man said, "Yes, as long as there is the reincarnation pool, it means that the world of reincarnation is mature." "How many mature worlds of reincarnation do you have?" Ning Shu said, "Just one." "What's the limit of a normal world of reincarnation?" The silver-haired man said, "One world of reincarnation can connect 10 worlds of reincarnation. It can't handle more." He was probably lying. The world of reincarnation and the world of Saint Spirit were one-to-one. Sometimes when the world of reincarnation was destroyed, the souls inside had to be moved to the next door. Sometimes when the living world was destroyed, all the living creatures inside directly poured into the world of reincarnation. So many worlds of reincarnation were not enough. One could imagine how much the world of reincarnation had collapsed. Ning Shu didn't want to challenge the bottom line of the world of samsara, so he decided to connect the 5 living worlds. Ning Shu paid the consultation fee. First, he gave Ah Wan a message, saying that the world of samsara was going to connect to the world of living. It was a bidding process. He wanted Ah Wan to be prepared. Ning Shu felt that Ah Wan must be a rich woman. The taxes of more than a dozen law cities, as well as the taxes collected over the years, as well as all sorts of treasures. Ah Wan said that she got it and probably started to get busy. Ning Shu posted an advertisement in the chatting system, saying that there was a world of reincarnation that could connect to the world of living beings, and that one could offer treasures or merit and faith. Even the connate embryonic treasure in the void would do. In short, whoever offered the most chips would be qualified to connect to the world of samsara. Ning Shu sent a message without hesitation. He even sent a picture of the world with the rebirth pool. After all, only pictures could reveal the truth. Very soon, someone contacted Ning Shu and asked all sorts of questions. They wanted to get some information from Ning Shu. Ning Shu decided to set up the bidding site in a restaurant. Anyone who wanted to participate could come. There were only 5 spots. Although the limit was 10, if something happened to the world, she would still be busy. If it collapsed, it would also affect the world of samsara that was being born. He could not jeopardize the future for the sake of small profits in front of him. Ning Shu went to the restaurant first to set up. He tidied up the main hall of the restaurant. It looked a bit like a bidding meeting. Ning Shu let the puppets and the restaurant staff receive the people who came to participate in the bidding meeting at the door. The first to arrive was Ah Wan. It seemed that Ah Wan really needed to connect to the world of samsara. Ah Wan saw Ning Shu and said a little coquettishly, "Can you tell me a bit?" Ah Wan was a cold girl. Now, she probably really needed to connect to the world of samsara. Ning Shu said gently, "This is the bidding method. We need to find out the situation of the competitors. I don't know the same as you. It's just a matter of who has the highest chips. To be honest, I don't know what the final price will be either." He didn't know if these people were willing to take out their things. If he knew that the chips were in the hands of the competitors, he could get the spot as long as he paid a little more than the competitors. Ning Shu didn't know how many people were bidding. It was completely random. Anyway, there were only 5 spots. If he could sell them, he would sell them. If not, Ning Shu didn't care too much. When his tree of world evolved creatures, there would be so many leaves. 1 leaf was a world. How many worlds would that be? Ning Shu felt that he might not have enough. However, it would take a long time before the tree of world took shape and produced creatures. During this time, the world of samsara would probably evolve many more worlds. Many people came after hearing the news. It was just that he didn't know whether they were here to watch the fun or to bid. Ning Shu asked the restaurant staff to count the people who were bidding. He asked these people to put the chips in their meson spaces and mark them with numbers. Except for themselves, no one would know what was in their meson spaces. When the time came, they would open it in front of everyone. It was fair, just, and transparent. There were only 5 spots, but there were more than 30 people participating. The competition was quite fierce. On one side, "I can only bid for 1 spot now." Ning Shu said, "That will depend on the chips that you bring out." Of course, the highest bidder would get it. Usually, bidding could raise the price. But if everyone's price was low, Ning Shu would definitely be at a disadvantage. Ning Shu didn't give a low price. If the price was too low, it would be eliminated directly. But it didn't mean that everyone would join forces to trick Ning Shu. Even if they did, it would only be 5 spots. In the future, she would have more world of samsara. It would depend on who was at a disadvantage. Her world of samsara was empty anyway. She might as well earn some extra money. She didn't rely on this for a living. If anyone wanted to trick her, she would remember it in her heart. Next time, she wouldn't interact with such people. And don't even think about connecting to the world of samsara. It couldn't even be fair and just. And if it connected to the world of living, it would cost energy to maintain. But if the world of living was connected to the world of samsara, everything would be solved. There would be no worries at all. Ning Shu was still very excited. He didn't know what he would get this time. Receiving gifts was the happiest thing in the world. Although her eldest uncle had given her a doll, Ning Shu's mood to relax was restless. Because there was a gift. This time, he hoped that there would be something amazing. The atmosphere was getting more and more anxious. The air was filled with tension. Everyone was waiting for the result. The puppet carried a tray to the stage. On the tray were the meson spaces with numbers. Some of the things inside would be hers. Thinking about it, she was a little excited. P.S. Because some channels can't reply to messages, we will reply here. Chi-Dian couldn't reply. When commenting, the phone was bound. After downloading a Chi-Dian book, it showed that it was bound. But she couldn't reply. She went back and forth a few times. First, I have to explain the issue of updates. A normal update is 2 chapters of 4,000 words. The website will give you full attendance. It's not much, only 600 yuan. Updating 1 chapter or not is considered less. Updating 3 or 4 chapters is a benefit. The website won't give you extra money, but I try to update 3 or 4 times. Hence, most people read 4 chapters. Next is the issue of the quality of the article. Sometimes, when I'm in a good state, it's slightly acceptable. When I'm not in a good state, it's unbearable. Of course, this is my problem. It has nothing to do with the readers. But I have to write 10 words a day. It's still a little worrying. I've seen everyone's comments. I don't read the comments because I know that it's impossible for everyone to like what I write. Some people like it, some hate it. Everyone has the right to express their opinions. But some comments make people's hearts ache and affect their mentality. Hence, I'm too lazy to read them. Speaking of which, there are probably readers who said that my attitude towards readers is to read it or not. If you don't read it, scram. To read it or not, the book is there. The choice is in the hands of the officials. If you feel that it's not good, if you're not satisfied, if you give up, it's all up to the officials. I can only watch and can't do anything. After paying attention to the same thing for a long time, it's hard to avoid feeling annoyed. If you're unhappy, you should give up. Because the book was an unpopular one, the subscriptions were just SOSO. However, all sorts of scolding, praising, generalizing, and even personal attacks on me and calling me a female slave made me think, wow, there are so many people reading my book. But looking at the royalties, it's obvious that it's a slap on the mouth. What I can write is the support of the readers. Some readers even give me subsidies. Other than words like bloating and floating, there's another word called insufficient motivation. I also want to float. I really want to bloat. But I can't. Today, there are 4 chapters. A normal update is 2 chapters. 2 chapters are added. Chapter 3459. In order to estimate the value of the treasures in the Messen spaces, it would be fine if they were given merit points directly. But if they were given a treasure, they would need someone to appraise the value of the treasure and give a price. This way, they would be able to compare. The 5 people with the highest price had the right to connect to the world of reincarnation. As long as the world of reincarnation existed, they would be connected. But if there was a problem with one of the worlds, such as the world of reincarnation or the world of living, there would be no need to connect. It would take a long time. Speaking of which, these people had profited. Ning Shu invited Si Tian of the auction house to estimate the value. As the boss of the auction house, he had seen all kinds of treasures and knew the value of these treasures. Ning Shu said to Si Tian, "Sorry to trouble you." Si Tian waved his sleeves and cupped his hands. Yes. Ning Shu picked up a Messen space. There was a pond in it, and there were lotuses in the pond. The lotuses swayed in the wind and emitted a fragrance. No matter how Ning Shu looked at them, they were just ordinary lotuses. In order to prevent his ignorance from being exposed, he looked at Si Tian. Si Tian nodded and said, "Not bad. Innate green lotus. When it grows up, it will be a powerful weapon." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. These big shots were really rich. Ning Shu put the Messen space aside and opened the next one. The owner of this Messen space was simple and crude. It was filled with merit grains. In such a big Messen space, there were many merit grains. And there was a difference between merit grains and merit points. When exchanging merit grains, a part of the tax would be deducted. 1,000 merit points could be exchanged for 1 merit grain. But in reality, each merit grain was only worth 900. Part of it was probably the labor cost, and the losses were all included in the calculation. There were a lot of merit grains. Ning Shu asked the puppet to count them. After that, there were all kinds of weapons and all kinds of strange things. There were also things that were good for the soul. There were many things that Ning Shu had never seen before. There were more than 50 Messen spaces. Ning Shu was dazzled. In the end, Si Tian would need to come up with a comprehensive ranking. Si Tian said cautiously, "Mayor, logically speaking, the innate green lotus should be at the front, but it's not that easy to form this weapon. Also, this phoenix girl is quite suitable for you. As long as it's expensive." Ning Shu directly said. She already had a whip, so she did not need the phoenix maiden sword. How could using a sword be more comfortable than using a whip? Ning Shu guessed that the bidder thought that he was a girl, so he got the phoenix sword. Ning Shu didn't care about the phoenix girl at all. This thing was of little value, and it was a waste of one of his spots. Once it was connected, It wouldn't be something that could be done in a day or two. There was no turning back. Of course, he couldn't let himself regret it. Tian choked for a moment. The innate green lotus is rare, City Lord should take it. There's also the carefree fruit that nourishes the soul. If City Lord is short on money, you can take the merit grains from the mess in space. The glistening yellow grains were the size of peanuts. There were so many of them in the mess in space, and they were all piled up. Ning Shu thought for a while and decided. The innate green lotus and the merit grains. These merit grains would be used to fund the maintenance of the world. As for the soul-nourishing fruit, Ning Shu already had the kidney-strengthening fruit. This kind of fruit wasn't very useful to Ning Shu. Ning Shu chose a treasure that could nourish weapons instead. It was said that this treasure could allow weapons to slowly gain spiritual energy. Ning Shu thought of his god-striking whip, so he chose this. Moreover, this green lotus also needed nourishment. The reason why Ning Shu kept the green lotus was because this lotus was too beautiful, and it was something that grew naturally. He wouldn't lose out if he took it. As for the remaining 2 spots, Ning Shu chose an item that could speed up the evolution of the world. This kind of treasure was exactly what the world tree needed. After the 5 spots were decided, Ning Shu went to inform the bidders. For those who didn't make the bid, the mess in space would naturally be returned to them. Some people weren't convinced. They looked at the things Ning Shu chose. Mine is obviously more valuable. Ning Shu just said, I'll take whatever I like. One person was even more unhappy. Based on your subjective feeling, this is unfair to the others? Ning Shu was a little surprised. Letting me take something I don't need is fair to me. My world of samsara can connect with whoever I want. If I don't want to trade, I won't trade. How could he blame her for not being able to take out something that tempted others? Everyone choked and couldn't help but be speechless. It seemed to be the same logic again, but they were a little unhappy. Those who didn't get the spots left resentfully. Among the remaining 5 was Awan. Awan smiled. Ning Shu felt that Awan was lucky and also very willing to put in the effort. The innate green lotus was taken out by Awan. Awan said to Ning Shu, You are the embodiment of the law of water. I got this green lotus, but I can't nourish it. Ning Shu nodded. Ning Shu greeted the 5 people one by one. Except for Awan, the other 4 were all men. When they saw Ning Shu greeting them, they didn't dare to neglect and all cupped their hands to return the greeting. Next was to connect the 5 worlds of living beings. Ning Shu opened a black hole and said to the 5 people, Now I'll bring you to the world of samsara. The 5 people didn't hesitate and followed Ning Shu into the black hole. Then, in a flash, they entered a gray world. Under their feet was fine sand, black fine sand. In the middle was a small pond. The pond water sparkled and reflected all kinds of gorgeous and happy scenes. It was full of color. This was probably the only color in the world of samsara. This reincarnation pond was not small. The surroundings of the reincarnation pond were covered with black flowers. These flowers were pure black and emitted a smell that made people happy. It attracted souls to jump into the reincarnation pond. This world of samsara was very big. It shocked the 5 people. It was much bigger than they imagined. Ning Shu said, Let's connect to the world of samsara now. I'll go first. Awan pulled out the jade hairpin on her head. This jade hairpin was white and delicate. Her waterfall-like hair also fell down. It made Awan look even more beautiful than before. When Awan pulled it out, she stroked it twice in her hand and handed it to Ning Shu. Except for the good jade quality, the carving was not very good. It was even a little rough. But it seemed that Awan had worn this hairpin for many days. The rough surface had become smooth. Ning Shu took the hairpin and looked into the world. It was a thriving world. A hairpin was a world. Ning Shu was not surprised. After all, there could be a world in a grain of sand. It seemed that Awan treasured this hairpin very much. Not only was there a world inside, there were living beings. Awan just said, A gift from an old friend. Chapter 3460. A gift from an old friend. This was a hairpin with a story behind it. Ning Shu used the law of space to connect the 2 worlds, So the two worlds were connected. No matter how far apart they were, there would be black holes that would draw souls into the world of reincarnation. At the same time, souls would also enter the world of Saint Spirit. Ning Shu tried his best to make the passageway more solid. This way, the possibility of problems would be less. After he finished, Ning Shu returned the hairpin to Awan. Awan tied up her hair and gently inserted the hairpin into her hair bun. "Thank you." Ning Shu smiled and shook his head. "No need to thank me. I've already received the gift." The other four also took out their world carriers. Everyone's carriers were different. Ning Shu connected them one by one. He suddenly laughed. A soul has already entered. The first soul to enter the world of reincarnation was the soul of an animal. The soul was very thin and seemed to have no intelligence. It was drawn by the rebirth pool. Under everyone's gaze, the soul floated to the rebirth pool and jumped in. Ripples spread out from the pool of rebirth, and the weak soul disappeared into the ripples. Such a weak soul would probably be a bird-like creature in the next life. In short, it had a short life force and did not have much intelligence. The six of them witnessed the process of a soul's rebirth. There was an indescribable feeling in their hearts. After that, more and more souls entered the world of reincarnation. There were also more and more types of souls. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Let's work together in the future. If there are any problems, let's communicate in time." The five of them nodded and looked much more relaxed. "If there are any problems, let's communicate in time." After watching for a while, the five of them said goodbye. Awan was the last to leave. She said to Ning Shu, "I see that there's another world next to your world." Ning Shu shook his head. "I'm not used to one world. There are several." "Awan, are they all reincarnation worlds?" Ning Shu shook his head and said, "I'm not sure. They're still evolving. Like bubbles, one world after another." Ning Shu did not know how many worlds could evolve. At that time, if there were too many worlds, she would have to split her attention to take care of them, just like how a master would take care of a plane. Awan smiled. Her eyebrows were curved like crescent moons, and her eyelashes were thick like butterfly wings. They were very beautiful. "In the future, if your world still has a quota, remember to inform me," Awan said. Ning Shu asked, "You have a world of living beings? Was it standard for a world to have so many living beings at the drop of a hat?" Awan nodded. "It's just that it's still evolving. Who knows when it'll succeed?" "Awan, can I contract you a world of samsara?" Ning Shu also smiled. "Sure, as long as you can pay the contract fee." "If the contract fee is cheap, I won't let you do it." Awan laughed. "Looks like I'll have to live a frugal life." Ning Shu didn't know that one had such a big appetite that she wanted a place in the world of samsara. It should be known that the limit of a world of reincarnation was 10 places. Connecting 10 worlds of reincarnation meant that Awan had more than 10 worlds of living beings. Was the world of living beings so lousy? Ning Shu thought about why it was so difficult for him to build a world in the past. And until now, she didn't have a world of living beings. Other people often had many, dozens and dozens of them. It was like drinking water. She spent so much effort, but until now, she still couldn't do it. Ning Shu thought about his own world tree, which was still a small seedling. Everyone had a world of living beings. Ning Shu felt a little wronged. When can I have a world of living beings? When can the world of samsara carry the souls of my family? Awan repeatedly reminded Ning Shu that he must keep a world of samsara. From now on, she would start saving money. Awan looked like a little girl who was living a frugal life for branded bags. Ning Shu nodded. "Save money well." She smiled like an unscrupulous capitalist. After Awan left, Ning Shu arranged for a group of skeletons to enter this world of samsara. Ning Shu handed a message space to Zhu Jun. Zhu Jun took a look and was surprised to see so many merit grains inside. "Why are there so many?" It was the first time he saw so many merit grains. "Ning Shu, you can arrange these merit grains. You have to run between 2 worlds. Oh right, Ying Yu and Yen Chuan, send one each to hold the fort." Besides Zhu Jun, there were other leaders in the skeleton team. The other world also needed someone to hold the fort. If anything happened, they could detect it in time. Zhu Jun nodded to show that he understood. He just needed to let Ning Shu rest assured. Ning Shu was still very assured about Zhu Jun's work. After all, Zhu Jun was very steady. Also, Ing Yu and the others didn't cause any trouble for him. But in the world of samsara, they couldn't cause any trouble. Even if they did, Ning Shu still had to help deal with it. After all, they were his subordinates. What could he do? Ning Shu said to Zhu Jun, "Thank you for your hard work. When you have time, go to the world of living creatures and see more." Zhu Jun immediately said, "I'm free anytime." Ning Shu, didn't you go secretly before? Otherwise, where did the child's diapers and clothes come from? Sometimes she went to do missions. The flow of time in each world was different. Sometimes she couldn't take care of the child. Maybe when he came back from a mission, the girl had become a young girl. Zhu Jun's eyes stared into the dark hole, giving a feeling of loss and innocence. Ning Shu didn't bother to say anything to him. He continued to pretend. Ning Shu returned to the system space. He took out the treasure for nourishing weapons and nourishing the holy whipping whip. He took out the pot of green lotus water and put it on the tea table. The green lotus was very beautiful. Even the flowers were light green and full of vitality. It was so beautiful that it made people feel good. Not to mention that this thing seemed to be very powerful, just its appearance made people happy. With this water pot, Ning Shu felt that his system space had become much more beautiful. Ning Shu supported his chin and looked at the green lotus. Awan was willing to take out such a good thing. She was determined to get the quota. He liked it. Dan Qing said to Ning Shu, "The main system informed you to deal with the star stone." Ning Shu's eyes curved. Dan Qing thought it was a bit abnormal. Did something happen to him? Ning Shu, "Of course I'm happy to earn money. Although it wasn't a lot of money." Ning Shu's finger tapped on the green lotus. The green lotus shook. There were crystal clear water droplets rolling around on the leaves. It was very cute. Ning Shu added some water to the pot. This was a mixture of the law of water and the law of wood. It had vitality and could nourish the green lotus. Ning Shu stood up and went to the void to change shifts with someone. Chapter 3461. Ning Shu began to process the star stones. To be honest, he felt that processing star stones was very high-end and classy. When he started, he felt that it was very boring and hurtful. This was probably because he always felt that other people's work was easy and simple, but his work was really like a dog's. "What are you looking at?" Ning Shu said to Zhu Menxing. Since she appeared, Zhu Menxing had been staring at her. Was he coveting her beauty? Zhu Menxing was probably constipated for a month. His face was not very good, but he still said, "Nothing." Normally, it would be, "What are you looking at? What's wrong with looking at you? Look again." However, when Zhu Menxing said that he didn't look at anything, Ning Shu didn't know how to respond. Zhu Menxing dragged the bag to the other side. It seemed that he did not want to have a conflict with Ning Shu. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. Was it because of that Buddhist man? The other party avoided him. Even if they wanted to find trouble, they had a good reason to do so. This was not good. This faction seemed to have given up on the god-beating whip. Why did that Buddhist man keep his word? Ning Shu weighed her own strength. All right, it was true that she couldn't take on the entire faction by herself. It was a good thing that no one came to find trouble. He also had time to grow. Ning Shu also calmed down the restless heart in her heart. This was not good. She was a quiet and peace-loving beauty. How could she fight? Ning Shu processed the star stones seriously and melted them. When Ning Shu felt tired, the number had already reached, and they were all more than proficient. Ning Shu wanted to change shifts. The main system quickly arranged for someone to come over. Soon the shift was changed. See, the main system was still efficient. In fact, it was very efficient. He no longer dragged his feet like before. When he went home to eat the kidney-strengthening fruit, he still could not eat much. Previously, he was gnawing on iron lumps. Now, he felt like gnawing on tires. But it was finally a little softer. Seeing the kidney-strengthening fruit, Ning Shu thought of the fruit forest at the bottom of the sea. He immediately contacted the main system and asked, "Is the fruit not ripe yet?" It felt like a long time had passed. He just did not know how fast time passed in that world. If it was fast, it might have been cooked already. If it was slow, it might not have been cooked yet. The main system replied, "Oh, I was just about to tell you about this. There are results, but there aren't many of them." Ning Shu was speechless. "I really don't believe you." Ning Shu felt that the main system wouldn't have told her if she hadn't thought of eating the fruit and casually asked. She was probably a naive and sweet girl. Ning Shu gnawed on the fruit and asked, "How many do you have? Give me the fruits that I deserve." Main system, 50. Ning Shu choked on Luan Tai's words. A great amount. It's true. This thing has a different maturity period. Many fruits are still hanging on the branches. You can go take a look. Ning Shu was speechless. He really wanted to go and take a look. The main system's words were half true and half false. Sometimes, it was hard to tell how much was true and how much was false. Can't you be more sincere and less scheming? Ning Shu, give me 52. What was meant to be hers was hers. The main system didn't say much and gave the amount of 50 to Ning Shu. Ning Shu kept the 50 fruits. No matter how much it was still an asset. Ning Shu swiped Ah Wan's name and asked her, "Ah Wan, did you find this green lotus in the void?" Usually, it was a good thing with an innate name. Ah Wan, in the void world. Ning Shu was speechless. Why was the void world so awesome? Ah Wan, the void world isn't a complete world. Because there are no rules or restrictions of the heavenly Tao, it's normal for things that exceed the world to be born. Ning Shu nodded in understanding. If it was a normal world, the heavenly Tao would suppress and not let things that exceeded the world's tolerance, be it power systems or treasures. It was precisely because there were no restrictions that many things could be born. It was a wild growth. Ning Shu asked Ah Wan, "How do you usually go to the world?" Every time, he had to buy scrolls from Elder Chi, not for scrolls, but for information. Ah Wan, we enter the world at will. You can search for it in the world. If you're lucky, you can find it. If you're unlucky, it's just a waste of time. Ning Shu was a little surprised. You don't buy things from Elder Chi? If you want something specific and you're sure you need one thing, then it's naturally not suitable to search for it in one world at a time. Elder Chi is the best. For this kind of random search, there's no need to look for Elder Chi. Ning Shu nodded. It seemed like he didn't urgently need any treasures now. He just needed to find something to calm himself down. Should he go alone or bring someone with him? He seemed to be able to go alone. If the situation wasn't right, he could retreat at any time. Ah Wan, are you going to the void world? Let's go together. I'm poor now. Can I find treasures together? Ning Shu thought for a moment. Okay, let's go together. Ah Wan was considered his friend. How could he see things clearly without experiencing some things? And he wouldn't bring the Cheongsam man along this time. The Cheongsam man's spatial laws were really bad. The Cheongsam man had already given her a law crystal, so she had to spend some time teaching him. Ah Wan, okay, I'll give you a spot. I'll wait for you. Ning Shu arrived at the spatial node that Ah Wan gave him. Ah Wan was waiting for Ning Shu. Let's go together. Ah Wan smiled at Ning Shu. Ning Shu, which world? Ah Wan was very Buddhist. Whatever. Whichever world. Anyway, Taba is like this. Sherwan stretched out her hand and casually pointed at a world. She turned to Ning Shu and said, "Is this world good?" Although this was very casual, Taba was just that casual. Ning Shu nodded. Yes, I'm fine with anything. Be a Buddhist. Ning Shu and Ah Wan turned into two streaks of light at the same time and entered the world. This world looked like a normal world. There were birds chirping and flowers fragrant. There were all kinds of creatures on the grass. There were deer with long antlers jumping around in the forest. Butterflies and bees were flying. It really was a paradise. It was so normal that it didn't seem like a world of nothingness. Do you see that mountain? The entire mountain is glowing, Ah Wan said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked around silently. He didn't see the golden mountain that Awan was talking about. Was there something wrong with her eyes? She only saw a paradise. Was it a golden mountain that was glowing? Ning Shu asked, "Where is it?" Awan looked at Ning Shu in surprise and pointed in a direction. "Over there." Ning Shu looked in the direction Awan was pointing. He still didn't see the golden mountain that Awan was talking about. Instead, he saw a very thick and colorful snake coiled around a tree. It hissed and flicked its tongue. "Ning Shu, I see a snake." Chapter 3462. How could it be a snake? Awan was a little surprised. "It's clearly a blinding mountain." Ning Shu said, "But what I saw was a snake." Ning Shu felt that something was wrong and said to Awan, "Where are you now?" "I'm at the edge of a cliff and there's fog everywhere. In the distance, there's a glowing mountain peak that pierces the clouds. I think it's some kind of treasure." Ning Shu said, "But I'm on a grassland and there are many small animals around. Red-eyed rabbits and colorful pythons. They're really fierce and cute." Awan and Ning Shu reached out to touch each other at the same time, but they were blocked by an invisible thing, making them unable to touch each other at all. Ning Shu patted the invisible barrier. What was this? It actually separated him and Awan unknowingly. Awan probably thought that Ning Shu was a rookie and rarely came to the void world. She comforted him, "Don't worry, anything can happen in the void world." Ning Shu shook his head. "I'm not worried." Gradually, Ning Shu and Awan were forced to move further and further away. Only when they were far away did they realize that they seemed to be staying in a transparent bubble-like ball. And there were many of these bubbles, and the scene inside each bubble was different. She was trapped in a bubble, and there were many bubbles around her. She was like a child who was blowing bubbles with a bubble machine. Awan didn't lie. Ning Shu saw Awan standing on a steep mountain peak. The golden light of a mountain peak in the distance was blinding. Ning Shu was on a patch of lush green grass. But both of them now understood that it wasn't real at all. The bubbles fluttered in the wind and Ning Shu and Awan were forced to separate. The two of them were trapped in the bubbles and had no choice. They couldn't decide where the bubbles wanted to take them. They could only wander with the bubbles. Awan said loudly to Ning Shu, "We have to find a way to break this bubble and leave immediately after breaking it. When the time comes, we'll gather in my fire city." Awan had given up on this world. As soon as she entered, she was trapped by the bubble and had to fight again in another world. Ning Shu pressed himself against the bubble, his facial features flattened. He shouted, "What if the bubble bursts and we're all finished?" The distance between them was getting further and further. Awan fell silent, not knowing what to say. Those bubbles under the sun would burst after floating for a while. Could it be that even these bubbles would burst? However, she had already tested it. This barrier was extremely sturdy. She couldn't break it in a short period of time. How could it break so quickly? Awan didn't know how to comfort Ning Shu. "Did you say it wouldn't explode?" "This barrier is very strong." The barrier was very sturdy. How were they going to get out? In the end, should he expect the barrier to be strong or not? Awan said, "In short, think of a way to get out." Ning Shu also reminded Awan to be careful. If this thing was really like a bubble, the worst result might be that they would burst together with the bubble and disappear. He didn't know how long such a bubble could exist. Ning Shu and Awan were getting further and further away from each other. They were mixed in many bubbles and couldn't see each other anymore. Ning Shu poked at the bubble with his finger. The bubble was actually very soft and elastic, like a balloon, but he couldn't get out. Moreover, the scene inside the bubble would change after a period of time. It changed into a different scene in an instant. Ning Shu was still standing on the green grass before, but now he was standing on a huge planet. He was floating on the surface of the planet and couldn't touch the ground. The scene changed from time to time. It looked quite real, as if it was real. However, it would change very quickly. There were thousands of changes, just like a mirage. However, it wasn't as illusory as a mirage. In the bubble, everything touched and the 5 senses were normal. It was real. Moreover, these changes were random. Some were beautiful and some were ugly. There was no pattern. Ning Shu used all kinds of methods, but it seemed like he couldn't get out. In the world of nothingness, many powers were restricted. Ning Shu sat down and thought about whether he should get a sharp object to poke the bubble like a ball. He condensed his spiritual power into a thin needle. It was very sharp and very strong. He kept poking at the bubble. However, he couldn't poke it. Using the law of space, he wanted to jump out of this balloon, but he couldn't. This bubble seemed to completely block everything outside. Inside, there was no way to release spiritual power and spiritual power. He couldn't find the space node outside the bubble. Damn, this was really a prison. Moreover, it was a prison that he didn't know if it would explode. Gradually, the scene in the bubble began to disappear. Inch by inch, it no longer existed. Moreover, the bubble was really like a bubble. Its color began to fade, and small holes appeared. It looked like it was going to explode soon. Ning Shu felt that as an object in the bubble, since the bubble exploded, he was afraid that he would also explode. Ning Shu thought so. As the bubble became more and more transparent, the destruction inside became faster and faster. Ning Shu hurriedly ran out of the bubble, but was blocked by the bubble's enchantment. With its pung sound, the bubble directly exploded. Ning Shu's astral mental energy within her sea of consciousness was actually shattered, causing her entire consciousness to turn blank. His soul suffered a huge injury. For a while, Ning Shu's soul was shattered. Taking advantage of this gap, Ning Shu tried to keep his consciousness clear. Dan Qing sent Ning Shu back to the system space. Back in the system space, Ning Shu's mind was still blank. It was as if he was deaf. He couldn't hear what was said outside. It was very uncomfortable. He also lost a lot of his soul. Ning Shu's head hurt. He squatted down and covered his head. After a while, the buzzing sound in his head dissipated. Looking at his soul, Ning Shu's face turned black. The sudden explosion caused Ning Shu to lose a lot of spiritual power. Now his soul looked very miserable. Ning Shu really didn't know what to say. He didn't know how Awan was doing now. Ning Shu suddenly felt that Awan's luck was also quite bad. Otherwise, she wouldn't have drawn such a world. It was just a casual point. Moreover, there didn't seem to be any danger in entering the world. It was peaceful. He didn't even know when he was trapped in the bubble. Ning Shu firmly refused to admit that it was because of him that the two of them were unlucky. He didn't know how Awan was doing now. Could Awan withstand the power of the explosion? Because she had the will of death, if the power didn't reach the limit of what she could bear, she wouldn't die. He just didn't know if Awan had the means to survive. He had charged through a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, but in the end, he was kneeling in front of a bubble. Chapter 3463. It looked like a bubble blown by a child, but it had so much power. Ning Shu endured the dizziness in his head and sent a message to Awan. "Are you out yet? Are you still there?" Awan didn't reply. Ning Shu was shocked. Was she really killed by the bubble? This was too much of a loss. Ning Shu waited for a while, but he still didn't get a reply from Awan. Ning Shu felt that something was wrong. Could it be that something really happened to Awan? Didn't she have anything to protect her life? It seemed that Awan was also a frequent visitor to the void world. She would always be able to find some treasures. Ning Shu didn't believe that she didn't have anything to protect herself. Ning Shu stood on his tiptoes and looked at the chat system, hoping for a response. The first time he teamed up with Awan, the other party was defeated. Ning Shu suspected that he was poisonous. However, the world was chosen by Awan. She was just a follower. Nothing happened to the Cheongsam man a few times. Even if there were some problems in the middle, they were all perfectly resolved in the end. Could it be that the Cheongsam man was a mascot? If that was the case, he should bring the Cheongsam man with him next time. He didn't need him to do anything. He just needed to be a mascot. Ning Shu didn't feel that he had any good luck. He was just a little unlucky before, and now he had the will of death. What was going on in that world? How did those bubbles come to be? Was there a bubble-blowing machine? If he could get a bubble-blowing machine, he could lock people up unknowingly. It would be really cool. However, that world was really dangerous. Ning Shu felt that his soul couldn't withstand a second explosion. As soon as he entered, he would be in a bubble. He couldn't even explore it. It was dangerous and full of temptation. Ding dong. The chat system suddenly rang. Ning Shu, who was thinking about something, was shocked. He quickly took a look. It was a message from Ah Wan. I escaped. Are you okay? Ning Shu saw Ah Wan's reply and heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't believe that Ah Wan would be defeated so easily. Ah Wan said, let's meet and talk. We can talk about it face to face, but I look a little embarrassed now. Huh? Embarrassing. Ning Shu felt that his appearance was probably even more embarrassing. He took a look at himself in the mirror and felt that his delicate face was blurry again. Sigh, not only did I fail to find the treasure, I even lost so much of my soul energy. Ning Shu also felt very uncomfortable. All right then, let's meet. Ning Shu had a feeling that there was some kind of treasure in that world, but it was something that they couldn't find out. These void worlds were all very outstanding. They could grow however they wanted. The safest way was to grow wild. It was bizarre. If this was really a treasure, with so many bubbles, how many people would be trapped? Moreover, when it exploded, it would cause a lot of damage. Even her good Ah Wan was in such a sorry state. If it was an ordinary living being or a person with insufficient strength who was trapped inside and couldn't come out, when they could come out, they would explode together with the bubble. It couldn't get any better. Ning Shu arrived at Fire City. Perhaps it was because he was the embodiment of the law of water, which was a little incompatible with fire, so he felt uncomfortable all over. Ning Shu arrived at the City Lord's mansion. Ah Wan didn't come out. She directly removed the barrier of the City Lord's mansion and said to Ning Shu, come in. Ning Shu felt even more hot in the City Lord's mansion. Although there were no laws now, there was no surging law power outside the barrier. But after so long, the residual law power still existed. The City Lord's mansion was even stronger. His soul was originally much weaker, but now it seemed to be evaporating. It was so hot that it evaporated. Ning Shu looked around and asked, where are you? When he was with Ah Wan, he had such doubts. Ah Wan said faintly, I'm right in front of you. My soul is now transparent. Ning Shu took a closer look and only then did she see the blurry Ah Wan. It looked like she could be blown away with just a breath. Ning Shu looked at his soul and then looked at Ah Wan's soul. His heart immediately felt balanced. It turned out that it wasn't his soul that was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. It was the same for others. It seemed that Ah Wan was really hurt this time. Ah Wan asked Ning Shu, how did you come out? Ning Shu. I took it head-on. Ah Wan said, I have something to protect me, but I didn't expect the explosion to be so strong. Ning Shu, then we can't go to that world anymore. I really want to go and see if there are any treasures. The bubble machine was very powerful. Ah Wan's transparent face looked quite melancholy. If we go again, the two of us will be very hurt. Maybe we'll die there. Let me tell you, I can't go to the void world with you. Ning Shu nodded. Ah Wan was about to kneel now. If he continued to force himself, he would definitely die a very hard death. Ning Shu wanted to go, but he couldn't do it alone. Why don't he find someone else to take a look? There must be treasures. Find a strong person to go with him. But if he found a strong person, if there were really any treasures, he might not be able to get them. Ning Shu felt that many people had probably died in this world. After all, they didn't sense any danger as soon as they entered and were then locked up. They couldn't get out and then exploded with the bubble. Ning Shu said, did you mark that world? If the space node was marked, they might be able to go back. But when it exploded, Ning Shu quickly returned to the system space and didn't have time to mark it. And they were always in the bubble, so there was no way to mark the world. In the bubble, they were isolated from the world. The transparent Ah Wan. I didn't even have time to escape. I couldn't mark it. Ning Shu. In other words, if they wanted to go back now, it wouldn't be easy to find that world. And that world was randomly chosen by Ah Wan. She just pointed at it casually. The two of them looked at each other speechlessly. Ah Wan smiled, making the transparent face look even more illusory. I didn't mark the space node inside the world, but I marked it outside. This is my habit. There are many worlds around the mark, but there's always a range. If you want to go, you can go and look for it. Ning Shu gave Ah Wan a thumbs up. You're good at doing things. Ah Wan gave the mark to Ning Shu and sighed. I'm going to do a mission. My soul is so weak. Ning Shu felt the same way. After all, she had been in this situation before. Although they had the location of the space node, Ning Shu's current situation was only a little better than Ah Wan's. If they went again, it would definitely be over. They didn't know what the situation was in that world, and they came back just like that. This was unprecedented. I'm leaving first. I'm very weak now. Ah Wan said and left. She told Ning Shu to be careful. She said that with their current strength, there was no way to explore that world. Ah Wan was also very helpless. Chapter 3464. You don't think of me as a man. The little demoness sneered as if she had been insulted. Ning Shu really had a headache. Ning Shu wrapped his mental energy into a rope and wrapped it around the little demoness' waist. Is this okay? I won't hold your hand. This way, they didn't have to separate and he didn't have to hold the little demoness' hand. Was she deliberately looking for trouble or was she just difficult to deal with? Anyway, Ning Shu saw a big demoness slowly growing. The little devil lowered her head and looked at the rope around her waist. She looked at Ning Shu faintly. Why are you pestering me instead of His Excellency? Are you bullying me because I'm weak? You really don't think of yourself as an outsider. Pestering His Excellency? Ning Shu nodded. Yes, because you are weak, I can only pester you. So, you have a problem with that. You are the weakest here. Only you know how to insult people. Who isn't a little princess? The little demoness had a hateful expression. To think that I came to help you. Ning Shu said, I brought you here to see the world. His Excellency lowered his head and said to the two, Why are you quarreling? We haven't encountered anything yet and you want to quarrel with each other? The little demoness' mouth twitched and she rolled her eyes, ignoring Ning Shu. Ning Shu found the world. The moment he entered, Ning Shu still grabbed the little demoness' hand, afraid that they would be separated when they entered. The front shook and the three of them appeared in the world. Ning Shu asked, What do you see? If the scene was different, then they were in different worlds. Ning Shu said directly, I see the sea. What about you? Although he was holding the little demoness' hand, Ning Shu wasn't sure if they were in the same bubble. The little demoness said, See. His Excellency said, See. Ning Shu exhaled. They were in a bubble. Soon, the bubble slowly rose. There were other bubbles around, and the scene in each bubble was different. Wow, this is quite interesting. There are so many bubbles. The little demon sighed. Ning Shu said, Right now, we have to get out of this bubble unscathed. Otherwise, this bubble will explode. The power of the explosion is very strong. What's the point of coming in and going out? The little fiend asked. Ning Shu said directly, As long as you enter the world, you enter the bubble. Now, you have to leave the bubble to investigate the situation outside. Do you understand? Ning Shu didn't want to argue with a child. We're going to investigate how these bubbles were created. The little demon rolled her eyes and said to His Excellency, His Excellency, do you think this bubble is fun? I think it's very fun. The Abyssal Prefect nodded. He was dressed in a black tuxedo, and he looked very elegant and gentlemanly. Abyssal Prefect Ning Shu asked, You're an experienced and knowledgeable person. What do you think is the reason for this? The Abyssal Prefect said, It should be a treasure that gave birth to such bubbles. So there really was a treasure. Bubble-blowing machine. Seeing the little demon's interested expression, Ning Shu felt like he had invited a wolf into his house. The scene inside the bubble was slowly disappearing, and the bubble was becoming more and more transparent. Ning Shu said immediately, The bubble is going to explode. The power is very strong. The Abyssal Prefect waved his hand and set up a black barrier for Ning Shu and the little demon, enveloping the two of them inside. However, the Abyssal Prefect didn't set up a barrier for himself. Ning Shu felt that he was being a bit arrogant and said immediately, "The power of the explosion is really strong. You should also enter the barrier." This was not the time to act cool. The scene inside the bubble was disappearing faster and faster, and finally, it exploded with a boom. Although Ning Shu was still feeling uncomfortable inside the barrier, it was much better than the first time. He didn't suffer much damage. The little demon covered her ears. "It's so loud. Annoying." The Abyssal Prefect didn't set up a barrier for himself, but he was still shaken by this power. He only staggered a bit and didn't seem to have suffered much damage. Alas, this was the difference in strength. She and Wan were almost killed. It was good that they were out. Sure enough, they had to find someone powerful and idle. However, Ning Shu was still thinking too much. Just as he was about to explore this world, the three of them were surrounded by bubbles again. And this time, the situation wasn't so good. Because the Abyssal Prefect didn't hold the little demon's hand, Ning Shu and the little demon were in the same barrier. Therefore, the three of them were separated and trapped in two separate bubbles. This world was really, so as long as they were in this world, they would be surrounded by bubbles. The Abyssal Prefect frowned and watched as the bubbles drifted farther and farther away. The distance between the three of them was also getting farther and farther. Ning Shu and the little demon were surrounded by the Abyssal Prefect's barrier and couldn't get out. Ning Shu was speechless. The little demon blinked her eyes. The Abyssal Prefect disappeared. Ning Shu guessed that this was probably the first time the little demon was so far away from the Abyssal Prefect. In the bubbles, they could only be taken away by the bubbles and couldn't control the direction. Ning Shu also couldn't break the Abyssal Prefect's barrier. Otherwise, the explosion would be very powerful. Ning Shu was speechless. "Is it fun?" The little demon, "It's quite fun." Ning Shu sighed. If nothing unexpected happened, as long as they didn't leave this world, they would be protected by the barrier and would always be in different bubbles. The bubble exploded and they entered another bubble. The bubble exploded again and they entered another world. It was a cycle. They had never seen this kind of world. Even the Abyssal Prefect had failed. Now, even the Abyssal Prefect couldn't be seen. Ning Shu was speechless. It seemed that this world was really difficult to deal with. He felt that the Abyssal Prefect had underestimated the enemy. Now that they were separated, it would be very difficult to reunite. As long as the bubbles burst, they would enter a new bubble. If this cycle continued, the Abyssal Prefect would never be able to stay in the same bubble as them. The scene in the bubble quickly disappeared. With a loud sound, the bubble burst. Because of the barrier's protection, Ning Shu and the little demon didn't suffer any damage, but they entered a new bubble. When this bubble burst, they entered another bubble. The scene in each bubble was different, and there were thousands of variations. The little demon clapped her hands and said to Ning Shu, "Wow, it's so interesting." Ning Shu said, "As long as you're happy." To be able to say such a thing in such a situation, at least her mentality was quite good. Of course, he didn't rule out the possibility that the little demon didn't understand the situation. The Abyssal Prefect was probably thousands of miles away from them now. The bubble floated in the air without any direction. What kind of treasure could form such a bubble and be able to evolve real things in the bubbles? Ning Shu thought again. Could these bubbles be another world? Although these worlds existed for a very short time, which was very short for them, but for the worlds in the bubbles, it might be very long. An instant of eternity. Chapter 3465. You don't treat me as a man. The little fiend sneered as if she had been insulted. Ning Shu felt a headache coming on. Ning Shu wrapped his mental energy around the little fiend's waist. "Is this okay? I won't hold your hand." This way, there was no need to separate or hold the little fiend's hand. Was she deliberately looking for trouble, or was she difficult to deal with? Anyway, Ning Shu saw a big fiend slowly growing. The little fiend looked down at the rope around her waist and looked at Ning Shu faintly. "Why are you pestering me and not His Excellency? Are you bullying me because I'm weak? You really don't treat yourself as an outsider." "Pestering His Excellency?" Ning Shu nodded. Yes, because you are weak, I can only pester you. So, you have a problem. You are the weakest here. You know how to insult people. Who isn't a little princess? The little fiend had a hateful expression. To think that I came to help you. Ning Shu said, I brought you here to see the world. His Excellency lowered his head and said to the two of them, Why are you quarreling? We haven't encountered anything yet and you want to quarrel with each other? The little fiend's mouth twitched and she rolled her eyes, ignoring Ning Shu. Ning Shu found the world. The moment he entered, Ning Shu still grabbed the little fiend's hand, afraid that they would be separated when they entered. The front shook and the three of them appeared in the world. Ning Shu asked, What did you see? If the scene was different, then they were in different worlds. Ning Shu said directly, I saw the sea. What about you? Although he was holding the little fiend's hand, Ning Shu wasn't sure whether they were in the same bubble or not. The little fiend said, See. His Excellency said, See. Ning Shu exhaled. They were in a bubble. Soon, the bubble slowly rose. There were other bubbles around it, and the scene in each bubble was different. Wow, this is quite interesting. There are so many bubbles. The little demon sighed. Ning Shu said, Right now, we have to get out of this bubble unscathed. Otherwise, this bubble will explode. The power of the explosion is very strong. What's the point of coming in and going out? The little fiend asked. Ning Shu said directly, Once you enter the world, you enter the bubble. Now, you have to leave the bubble to investigate the situation outside the bubble. Understand? Ning Shu didn't want to argue with a child. We're going to investigate how these bubbles were created. The little demon rolled her eyes and said to His Excellency, His Excellency, do you think this bubble is fun? I think it's very fun. The Abyssal Prefect nodded. He was dressed in a black tuxedo, and he looked very elegant and gentlemanly. Abyssal Prefect Ning Shu asked, You're an experienced and knowledgeable person. What do you think is the reason for this? The Abyssal Prefect said, It should be a treasure that gave birth to such bubbles. So there really was a treasure. Bubble-blowing machine. Seeing the little demon's interested expression, Ning Shu felt like he had invited a wolf into his house. The scene in the bubble was slowly disappearing, and the bubble was becoming more and more transparent. Ning Shu said immediately, The bubble is about to explode. The power is very strong. The Abyssal Prefect waved his hand and set up a black barrier for Ning Shu and the little demon, enveloping the two of them inside. However, the Abyssal Prefect didn't put a barrier on himself. Ning Shu felt that he was being a bit arrogant, and said immediately, The power of the explosion is really strong. You should also enter the barrier. This was not the time to act cool. The scene in the bubble was disappearing faster and faster, and finally, it exploded with a boom. Although Ning Shu was still feeling uncomfortable inside the barrier, the first time was much better, and he didn't suffer much damage. The little demon covered her ears. It's so loud. Annoying. The Abyssal Prefect didn't put a barrier on himself, and he was also shaken by the power of the explosion. He only staggered a bit, and it seemed that he didn't suffer much damage. Alas, this was the difference in strength. She and Wan were almost killed. It was good that they came out. Sure enough, they had to find someone powerful and idle. However, Ning Shu was still thinking too much. Just as he was about to explore this world, the three of them were surrounded by bubbles again. And this time, the situation wasn't so good, because the Abyssal Prefect didn't hold the little demon's hand, and Ning Shu and the little demon were in the same barrier. So the three of them were separated and trapped in two separate bubbles. This world was really. So, as long as they were in this world, they would be surrounded by bubbles. The Abyssal Prefect frowned, and watched as the bubble drifted further and further away, and the distance between the three of them also increased. Ning Shu and the little demon were surrounded by the Abyssal Prefect's barrier, and couldn't get out. Ning Shu. The little demon blinked her eyes. The Abyssal Prefect disappeared. Ning Shu guessed that this was probably the first time the little demon was so far away from the Abyssal Prefect. In the bubble, they could only be taken away by the bubble, and there was no way to control the direction. Ning Shu also couldn't break the Abyssal Prefect's barrier, otherwise, the power of the explosion would be very strong. Ning Shu. Is it fun? The little demon. It's quite fun. Ning Shu sighed. If nothing unexpected happened, as long as they didn't leave this world, they would be protected by the barrier and would always be in different bubbles. The bubble exploded, they entered another bubble, the bubble exploded again, and they entered another world. The cycle repeated. They had never seen this kind of world. Even the abyssal prefect failed. Now, even the abyssal prefect couldn't be seen. Ning Shu was speechless. It seemed that this world was really difficult to deal with. He felt that the abyssal prefect had underestimated the enemy. Now that they were separated, it would be difficult to reunite. As long as the bubble burst, they would enter a new bubble. If this cycle continued, the abyssal prefect would never be able to be in the same bubble as them. The scene of the bubble quickly disappeared, and with a loud sound, the bubble burst. Because of the barrier's protection, Ning Shu and the little demon didn't suffer any damage, but they entered another bubble. When this bubble burst, they entered another bubble. The scene of each bubble was different, and there were thousands of variations. The little demon clapped her hands and said to Ning Shu, "Wow, it's so interesting." Ning Shu, as long as you're happy. In the face of such a situation, to be able to say such words, at least her mentality was quite good. Of course, he didn't rule out the possibility that the little demon didn't understand the situation. The abyssal prefect was probably thousands of miles away from them now. The bubble floated in the air without any direction. What kind of treasure could form this kind of bubble, and also be able to evolve into something real in the bubble? Ning Shu wondered if these bubbles were one world after another. Although the time of existence of these worlds was very short, which was very short for them, for the world of the bubble, it might be very long. Eternity in an instant. It's the fastest novel website. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.